Good morning and welcome to Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg and it is 9/11/2024 and welcome to our show today. I am on the road right now and I'm not driving, so everything's safe and secure here. But I just wanted to welcome everybody here and talk about all sorts of things. Today we're going to have a little bit different show. We are going to start out with Liberty Essentials, Bill Mohr, Karen the Riveter, and Ralph the IT guy, and then we're going to hand everything over to Jalise Middleton, and she's got two guests on this morning, which will be real interesting. She's gonna take over on that as I'm driving back to get on the road back to get things in order back at home here. So lots and lots of things to report to you guys, and I guess I just want to say right now is that keep your eyes on God, because there are things that are changing. Change isn't bad. Embrace it and realize that sometimes radical change has to happen in order to clean house and right things that are so out of whack. So anyhow, with that said, I'm going to bring on my guests. We're going to bring on Bill Mohr, Ralph the IT guy, and Karen the Riveter when she gets on. Hey guys, how you doing?
Pretty good.
Good. What's happening?
So we just went through a pretty wild couple of weeks, both you and I, Donna, and I don't know what else was going on. Several very close people to us now have passed on, and that kind of put a kibosh on a lot of the stuff we were doing momentarily. But back in the saddle again, a term that Donna understands more than I do. I use it mainly as just a cliche.
Metaphorically.
I ride on leather seats, right? Big horsepower leather seats. Donna rides on leather saddles, 1 horsepower. So it's relatable.
Those are leather seats too. So we both ride on leather. Mine's a little less gutsy than yours in many regards, but you got to be a little crazier to ride an animal that is irrational.
Yeah, yours have a mind of their own. Mine has a mind of mine, right?
Yeah, that's true. So lot on out there, and I think Bill, you brought it up this morning, and to your point, I think we're going to have to address things that are uncomfortable subjects for people, and that's okay. That's okay. I was on with Courtney Turner, and we got talking about the fact that I do not believe in protected status of anyone, and I mean anyone, and that comes with comes in.
Well, as she was saying earlier, there are some connectivity problems today.
Yeah, sometimes it's difficult to do live and drive at the same time.
Is above. Let's there's a effort going on right now. War games in cyberspace. There's economic.
So what we have is an amendment to the 14th Amendment, right? That all people are protected under equal protections of the law. That's kind of what Don is referring to there, and that there is no class or sect of people within these United States that separate any type of protections or justice under the law, might I add. Each person is accountable to the law in their own individual capacity, no matter what position, office, or title that they hold.
All right, let's try that again. Okay, so what you're going to expect out of today, because there's an effort going on. It includes 60 countries and many companies that they have a public-private partnership with, and it involves almost all the countries that have Stan in their name. And so whenever Stan shows up, it's never a good thing at this point in time, okay? We're going to have interruptions. I will make a Donna Brandenburg prediction that you're going to be able to take to the bank. We are going to watch go down and probably the electric grid at some point in time. And it may not be the whole thing at time, but we're life is going to change in many ways. So anyhow, they're playing war games, all of our infrastructure, communication. I pulled everything up this morning that I could because it kept knocking me off of even making cell phone calls and or having any kind of activity. And all of them looked like the same spikes that happened around what was going on at the RNC, because the same cyber hacks were going on at the RNC with all of the telecommunications providers. And you're going to see it. Verizon's having problems. AT&T is having problems. And so are all of Twitter wasn't loading this morning. All of them are having problems. And it's something that we'll be monitoring. But I can almost assure you, as in the last time, BNN was the only one that was really able to keep things up. And we are going to probably be the ones that are going to be keeping this up now if things go down. We've made allowances for things. We have put a lot of hack-proof measures in place, and they're going to have a hard time knocking us out. And so it's possible. Anything in the digital is possible, but I think that we're sitting in a pretty good spot right now. So if things go down and look bad, just come back to Brandenburg News Network, and I'll pop on here. We'll turn the cameras on and let you know what's going on to the best of our ability.
Yeah, that's good. That's like our own, what was the commission back in the revolutionary time? Karen, you could probably answer that. Commission of Correspondence?
No, I don't know.
Our Committee of Correspondence, that's what it was. A group of individuals who would constantly keep communication lines open and notify the public of what's happening. It's an essential part of maintaining liberty. So you kind of walked right into that one for me.
Well, you know what? The other thing is too is that we've been working on a wireless communication system, and we can get it all the way to Boston. We've done that before, and that is completely off the grid. And so the nice thing is that we have, and we're getting ready to deploy it. We started to deploy the handheld devices, and we also have base stations. So you two are on top of the list to make sure that we're all connected. But other critical people too that need to be connected. But we were able to approve those communications by an important entity, and we're the only ones that were able to accomplish what we've accomplished. And so it's going to be available shortly for other people who want to take part in that sort of activity. And I think it's going to be a critical thing. Communications are going to be wonky, and I have a feeling 75% of it go down or more. It may be an interesting time to be alive. If it happens, don't panic. If you're here, it's because you're probably smarter than the average people up with our shit. And I'm saying that tongue in cheek, right? But it's like one of those things that it's going to be our job as followers of Christ to walk forward unwavering and keep people calm and realize that the plan is there, God's plan, God, and it's going to be okay.
Yep. Well, what's the first thing that goes just before war? We all should know this. The first thing that is the first casualty of war is the freedom of speech, right? It is essential that we maintain that right in any amount that we can, any avenue that we can, because as Hosea said, my people are destroyed for lack of knowledge. If we quit bringing them the knowledge that they need to free themselves, then they'll be bound into servitude by whatever entity is silencing them. And we see it happening across the board, government funded.
Well, and I'm going to tell you right now, I got offered a bunch of money again in this direction was people that wanted to participate in BNN. But the problem is that you gotta think strategically. I think about how they've done this. Anything that an app is to Apple, Microsoft terms and conditions. They're manipulating them. If it's an app, it's being manipulated. The way we're doing it completely differently, and I can just tell them all to go screw themselves. When they try to censor us. That's why what's really important now is that everybody who's here have a part to play, and the part is that we can't outspend them. We can't use, no matter how much money that we throw at this, it is not going to work. The only thing that works is human capital, and that means a group of people or patriots that care enough to say, you know what, I'm going to buy into this. And what I mean by buy into us is that we get out there and post every day, get more people here so that we can wake them up with what's going on. Zero censorship environment, and the only way it's going to work is that anything that involves money will compromise it. If I went to an app, that app is going to be subject to terms and conditions of them absolutely turning it off at the Microsoft level, at the Apple level, at the programming and operating system level. It doesn't work, and it makes people feel really good. People app, and they can click around and they feel technology savvy. Well, all it is another part of this beast system. And so if we keep going in the direction we have going right now, there's things that we can do as long as we don't play ball with them. They control over us. And I can imagine sitting there completely and utterly pissed off. When we put those tornadoes off, I'm going to tell you right now, the hacks stopped dead in their tracks. And so, we're on to something. It is going in a great direction. The responsibility of this rests on every single person that's out there listening to this, and that cares about this country. It's one way to fight.
Yep, that's an important thing. The people have been deemed the threat, right? I think we can all agree on that. The people of this nation have been deemed the threat, and being that it's 9/11, tying that back to the Patriot Act, I don't know how many people have actually read through the hundreds of pages of the Patriot Act. I know I have. It's absolute garbage, the fact that it was ramrodded through.
Pretty sure nobody that passed it read it.
Nobody that passed it read it. No, that's a guarantee, because they didn't have the time from the time it was presented till the time it was passed at whatever it was, 3:00 in the morning or something like that.
Or they were told what to vote for. And I'm going to tell you what right now, the crap Republican Party, the absolute criminally complicit Republican and Democrat Party, they installed Pete Hoekstra, who signed that thing twice, which puts him in the category of treasonous against this nation, because it was a attacking people and our ability to not be surveilled and such. They're criminals.
Yeah. Yep. Every single one of them was an accomplice to that. The Patriot Act actually, the definitions of what they called a terrorist immediately after 9/11, right? What were we told? We were told almost immediately, the narrative came out that it was oh, come on now. It was for lack of a better word, the Islamic people, right? That there was an Islamic group of terrorists. And what did George Bush come out and say following that? He says, you're either for the terrorists or for us, right? It was an immediate way to divide the people based on an emotional response to a huge catastrophe, mind you, that was pre-planned and pre-known by our government entities. Between Bush and Cheney and the CIA and the FBI, a lot of that information has already come out now. And a lot of us, at the time it was happening, we were saying there's something wrong here. The way all that fell into place is just absolutely ridiculous.
Never let a good crisis go to waste, right?
That is exactly it.
Well,
exactly it.
Let's talk about that. They went right after Islamic terrorists right there. Nobody could ever convince that there's nothing believable about they've got a whole city full of papers and things blowing and debris blowing everywhere. But somehow they find the passports of the two terrorists that went up allegedly in a fireball, and they find it in a city full of paper, and they got their names. They know who it is in the whole country. It was like a bunch of carp on a line. We know who it is, and it's an Islamic terrorist. And all you got to do is look at the absurdity of this and just stop and think a minute. How do you cut through a building with a steel exoskeleton and have the perfect outline of an airplane? You can't even, I fly, and it's like you can't even touch wingtips without those puppies crashing or crumpling. It's absurd.
Yeah, it's yeah, let me pull up this picture a minute. This one has been going around. Oh, good grief. I'm not used to doing this anymore. There you go. If you can pull that up, Ralph. There's a picture going around recently of an airplane wing. And I don't know much about airplanes. That looks 737, 747, somewhere in that era, similar to the size that they claim hit the towers, right? Running into a light pole and bending the pole over about 10 degrees and smashing almost a quarter of the way through an airplane wing, right? That's a light pole, for Pete's sake. For anyone that still believes that the entire nose cone of an airplane can make it through a building, it's absolute insanity. There's pictures of airplanes that have been hit by birds mid-flight, right? It completely demolishes the front of the nose cone. It's incredible how people believe. And once you get past the point of knowing that something wasn't quite right, like when you referred to the passport thing, when you can rationally process that, and then you start to dig a little deeper, and you find out that that they also had that building planned for abatement, right? Because all of the pipes and such were still wrapped in asbestos. So they had that building planned for abatement. They already had contractors on scene that have given quotes, which are astronomical prices. And I don't believe that they would have afforded it at that point. You look closer at the details, and you also find out that both police and first responders, firefighters, there's numerous accounts. And I mean, I know I have seen at least 50 accounts of individuals saying that while they were in there or nearby the scene, they heard explosions, right? Just before the towers came down. You take all that into account and understand that the melting point of steel is well below the burning point of jet fuel. Okay, we're not even going to go into there. There's just irrational arguments that people want to have. And there's a larger picture as to why they had to come down, right? And Karen, let's not even talk about Building 7, right? City blocks away, we're talking about another, not real high rise, but a taller building that they claim, and I actually had a video of that where they scientifically claim that the disruption in the Earth's surface tension from the collapse of the towers caused Building 7 to weaken its structure and fall down, right?
Which coincidentally where the CIA was hiding documents, and they had lost track of like $800 million on helicopters and crap that they had to hide. That's like the $700 screwdrivers. And with that point, to your point of the melting point, there's no way it melts or acts or reacts the way that there. And the only answer to that is enriched thermite, and that's a military grade. That's military grade.
Yeah, that's right.
Nobody ever talks about that tower. It's that building. It's as if nothing happened that day when they retell the story. Like right now, there is a program on C-SPAN where they're doing a memorial service. They're naming all the people who are lost one at a time and ringing a bell. And everything they do now everything they try to do to go, oh, look what a terrible day it was, and all the people that died, and there was a 60 Minutes program on Sunday about firefighters and how there's a second generation now of their children who are now firefighters because they were inspired by that day. It's um it's interesting to me how every type of program they put out and the information and the storytelling they do ticks me off more, because it's like, yeah, when you talk about the firefighters who lost their lives, and you talk about all the people who died above the flames, the people who threw themselves out the windows because they didn't want to die by burning up, and all that emotion that they want to put into the storytelling and the narrative of the terrorism. I'm like, yeah, our government did that to us.
That's right.
Our government did this on purpose to us, and it just ticks me off even more. They're trying to make us forget that, or deny it, or continue telling the old narrative. And it's like, yeah, please tell us, please do more of that. And it was interesting to, I want to tie it briefly into what happened yesterday with the debates, because I started picking up on it. I started posting about it, and then I find out everybody else is posting about how David Muir especially was fact checking Trump repeatedly. And it was made very clear that ABC was working against Trump, and they were heavily biased. And one of the memes I sent to you this morning was about how obvious it was that the media is working against Trump, and how it was a gift. That was a great phrase, because now the people, if they didn't see it before, this was part of the Awakening for Dummies process. The media is the enemy. They're going to be continuing to tell us stories. They made Trump a victim again yesterday. He's had all these attacks against him, and the media victimized him again last night. I think that helps him. And you have this contrast where Biden last night told the press, I'm going to do 9/11 tomorrow. It was on his schedule to do 9/11. It's so flippant.
Yeah,
And
because
she's
part of it, and the you're over the target on this, in the fact that everything they do is smoke and mirrors. And you look at the attacks on our elections, we have proved beyond any if this would have been a murder, somebody would have been executed for for capital crime here on this. We got so much evidence on this. It's unbelievable. I don't think there's ever been another crime committed in the history of the world that has so much evidence of a criminal conspiracy here as what they've done in our election process. And you know what? I don't really give a rip if anybody likes President Trump or not. I really don't care at this point in time. And the reason being is that they attacked us as America on our election. This was an attack against we, the people. President Trump is one of us. And it's like, the people were attacked on that day. Our Constitution was attacked with the election, with the Patriot Act. This is a complete assault on the United States of America, we the people. And whether it's President Trump or not, we have to fight for the process of him being president of the United States, because the process is what they violated. They violated his rights. They violated every single right of every person in the United States of America. If you don't stand by fighting for when they subvert a process that's there, off process, then I can't help you. This country is a country of laws, not men. And when we walk away from when they usurp a law or a process, and it becomes a popularity contest, and people say, "Well, I'm not going to fight. I don't like President Trump." You just stood with the traitors that absolutely launched an attack through our elections against the United States of America. They diluted the vote. They took your voice. They took the will of the people away. It is a violation of not just one amendment, but multiple amendments, as well as the articles and processes.
Well, to tag off what you just said a minute ago, Karen, that the media absolutely portrays Trump in a negative light, which helps his campaign. I don't doubt that for a minute, but you can't leave off the other side of the media as well, what I call conservative crack, like Fox News. The same goes for both sides of the two major parties.
Yes.
They are constantly supporting one and demoting another, right? How do you pack a stadium for an MMA fight? How do they do it? They promote the fight, right? One set of people is promoting one guy, another set of people is promoting another guy. It's constant division, and it keeps the people entertained, right? Yep. As long as they have a piece of bread, a little bit of food, and a little bit of entertainment, they own you, right? Yep. If we're tied up into that.
Bread and circuses.
That is absolutely the case. And they've been doing it for a long time. Regarding the elections, Donna, we've touched on this before, that this is nothing new. 2020 was not anything new. The only thing it was more people were woken up to it because it was their guy being attacked. But I'm going to tell you, in 2016, the exact same things were being said. You go back to the 2016 election when Trump was elected, and you'll find that the other side, right, the whole unconstitutional sides that we're dealing with, the other side, that group of people made the exact same claims, not only regarding the election process, the stuffing of ballots, but also they made it public in 2016 that Dominion was in fact a foreign entity and that could easily be hacked. But how many people heard about that? Because it didn't come across the conservative news, but rather it came across what everybody would call the left news.
Yep.
Right.
I think somebody made a great point the other day. Maybe it was John Tater's show, and his segment on BNN, which was really interesting. So if anybody missed it, watch that one. Where Donna was talking about her election case, and he brought up a point too, that the Republicans are not using the very important point that Kamala does not fulfill the obligations, the requirements in the Constitution in order for her to be a candidate, just as Obama did not. Why aren't the Republicans attacking her on that? And you could say, well, because they know they can beat her, and so they're just going to use her as an easy opponent. I'm not buying that. If you're the constitutional type of party, that's the first thing you say about your opponent. They do not qualify. They didn't do it with Lincoln. They didn't do it with Obama. They're not doing it with Kamala. And I was waiting last night, and David Mohr didn't ask, hey, don't you not qualify? He's not asking her that question. Trump's not asking her that question. Why is no one asking her that question? She doesn't qualify as a candidate. That's the most basic concept there is.
Well, and why aren't the political parties fighting for this? This goes back to, and I'm going to drop this here, Marjorie Taylor Greene. Everybody's like, we got to have more Marjorie Taylor Greenes. Really? She was making money off the drug industry before she got into office. And then why didn't she step up to get those J6ers out? Why are none of these people stepping up? They all play lip service to this. How many people stood up that were in office actually for President Trump with the 2020 election? None of them has stood up. There's nobody that is actually standing up. And number two, if a dummy like me can file a pro se lawsuit and get this thing figured out, how is it that all these great minds that are in office can't do anything to actually hold them accountable? And I'm going to bring up another thing that I'm really concerned about. I went and listened to the Knoll brothers, and I gave them a very pointed question because I believe both sides of the narrative are being funded. I just do. Okay. And they were talking, one of the guys started talking about running for governor, and everybody was like clapping. And I'm like, so we voted somebody who was a victim. What qualifies a person, because they've had media attention, to run for governor that is just based on the fact? So I asked him, I said, I threw it out there. I said, I want to know, and I want to question it, what you're going to do to hold the FBI accountable that that clearly violated your rights. And I said, I see a kidnapping charge in there. What are you going to do to hold them accountable? They went right to fear porn. Oh, you can't do that. You don't understand. You don't understand how volatile this is. You're all on a watch list. One of the guys said, well, I'm not a Christian, but if you're a Christian, you're on a watch list. And I'm sitting there going, is nobody listening to what's being said here?
Yeah.
The reason why they won't, now I'm not going to say they can't do anything, but the reason why they won't do anything is because the moment people start using the law and the Constitution to expose the crimes of everybody we know by name, right, especially in the federal government, the moment they start doing that, they expose their own works because they are all complicit in it, and they will not do that because they have to be held just as accountable, right? Both of these political parties understand that principle. That is why nothing can get done. How many times have the Republicans exposed the corruption and the treasonous acts of Joe Biden? How many times do they talk about it? Good grief. Almost daily, you can hear something or some article that some Republican puts out regarding the corruption of Joe Biden. Now it's Kamala Harris, right? We just moved targets is all we did. But with all of the evidence they have, why do they not do anything about it? It is their duty to impeach, and then it is the duty of the justice system to prosecute it. But that is what is lacking, right? Just as Micah said, 3 things are required from us: do justly, love mercy, walk humbly with the God. We can't even get the first one right. We can't even do justice in this nation that guards our liberty, right? That is the issue. And they won't do it because they will have to be held to the same account by the people, and they know it.
I saw a movie aired the other day. It's called Man of the Year. I recorded it because I wanted to watch it later, and it's from 2006. Robin Williams stars as a comedian. He's a late night talk show kind of guy, and someone stands up and tells him, "You should run for president." So he does, and he's not doing well in the polls. He had like 17% actually was the number in the movie and the polls, which I thought it was interesting. So he polled 17%. Well, all of a sudden that night, he won the election. That's the story. Well, meanwhile, they're showing this woman that works for the company that the legislature brought in, a single company to run all the electronic machines. And there was one woman who decided to run a test on the program at a larger scale, and she discovered that it wasn't working properly. And she eventually figures out it's in the code that alphabetically the candidates are going to win by alphabet. And so she tries to out the truth, and they come after her. They try to threaten her, they try to kill her, and she gets to Robin Williams' character. Meanwhile, he thinks he won, and so he's acting as the president-elect. He's got all this protection. He listens to her. He believes her when no one else does, and he steps down because he has an ethical standard. I didn't win. The will of the people is more important than what good I could do. And because he has an ethical standard, he backs out, and I think the incumbent wins in the story. I could not believe they were airing this movie again because there was so much in it that I was like, it was as if it was kind of predicting the future, and they were putting it out there so blatantly. I couldn't believe it. But you're making a great point, Bill, that too, when all of our politicians are corrupt and they're afraid of exposing corruption because they're a part of it, what then does that require? It requires the ethical people, we the people, to, number one, know what things like due process and proper justice mean, but to then act upon it. And I think we're getting closer to that point where we have people like Donna who are trying to figure out how to file cases or go against the election process one way or another to say, hey, this isn't right. What's happening in Michigan with our registered voter rolls is not right. What can we do to solve that problem? And little by little, we're getting some wins.
Well,
Is it going to be enough?
Yep.
let me tell you what happened. A few weeks ago, I was given an ultimatum. Okay, like I get offered money, I get given ultimatums, all that, and they just don't really work well with me. And somebody said, "You either switch to this, or you have to change it." I mean, it was hostile in my face. You have to change, or 2 days you're done. And I'm like, really? I'm like, let me help you. We're done right now. I'm not going to give this 2 days because I don't get threatened. And all this sort of thing happens. And so, yeah, hang on, I gotta think about it in a minute. She drove, and so I'm just parked right now. All this sort of thing happens, and I gotta tell you, when you listen to God rather than men and women, it things seem to be, they don't make sense to people. But God does things like that so that we don't get the glory, and it all goes back to Him because it's His plan. And I'm going to tell everybody out there, if you're thinking American, jump off that stupid Republican Party and Democrat parties that have done nothing. Run for your lives from this. And I'm going to tell you what, I don't believe in political parties. Neither does Bill. They're
Nope.
wrong. But we have a tool right now to fight them, and it's a tool we have to use right now to fight. We're working on in the U.S. Taxpayers Party, which is the Constitution Party in Michigan, and the only reason why we can't change our names is because Benson the traitor, who I'm suing right now, is not allowing us to change our name. We are the Constitution Party. Whenever I hear Republicans say that, I'm like, okay, sure you are. Only time I hear Constitution is when you use it as a headline. I never heard any of them quote it. I've never heard them quote Michigan compiled law. I haven't heard one peep of them out of them on why we stand on the Constitution unless they're on a stumping speech. And I'm going to tell you what, we have 5 resolutions right now that we are working through to put law into and make it stick. We have the database of the contacts. These things are going to the people that are breaking the law. And you know what? There's going to be more lawsuits that come out of this to hold these people accountable. You want to keep going to these popularity contests, nonsense, bitch club, coffee club that people are still fighting over who's going to bring the cookies so they can vet people to install them. Be my guest, but get out of the way of the patriots that are willing to take this country back and do what it takes to take it back.
That is the key right there. And we've said it before too, that we can't do everything, right? As much as I would like to, we cannot do everything, but everybody can do something, right? Everybody has a skill set, and everybody is capable of just doing something, right? The amount of information that's hidden from the public is absolutely astronomical when it comes to what they have been doing to us for good grief, for over 100 years, right? I would dare bet say 150 years. Karen, you mentioned Abraham Lincoln. I think you and I are on the same page in that. I've brought it up before. That was the birth of the Republican Party, right? This whole conservative party that people have spent decades. Norm Hughes, not Norm Hughes. Was it Hughes? I forgot his name. I'm sorry. But he fought for over 40 years trying to restore the Republican Party back to its principles. I tell you, if you restore the Republican Party back to its principles, you've lost state sovereignty again, right? Yep. You have lost the 10th Amendment the day the Republican Party took power, right? That's how that worked. It wasn't to bring about some new avenue of constitutional correction or restoration back in the 1860s. But in fact, it was a new avenue to divide the people into categories, into Republican or Democrat, left or right, right? And that hasn't changed. That principle remains from that point, right? And we know Washington and Adams specifically talked about that. It's the greatest political evil under our Constitution to allow such things to happen. They have no constitutional authority to do what they're doing. It is only the people that allow it. And as long as they keep playing their game, right, the game continues. There was an image that I found that I saw a while back of some big fat bureaucrats sitting around I think it was a Monopoly board or something, and then the people all hunched over with the game board on their backs. Right. The caption was, "When the people stand up, their game is over." That is exactly accurate. Right. And what do we hear the majority of the time is, well, we can't do anything. They're too powerful. There's too many of them. They've got this, they've got that. Well, wait a minute, because my God told me that we're given the spirit of power to overcome the deeds of the wicked. There's no in between there. Either we overcome, as Romans 12:21 says, overcome evil with good, right? That requires an action. We can't just stand by and wait and let it waste away. It requires an action on our part to actually overcome what we're seeing. It only takes small steps at a time. And I've said it before. Edmund Burke said, for evil to prevail, it only takes good men to do nothing, right? Or however he worded that. I got that quote wrong. And I've said before, I think Edmund Burke was wrong, because good men do not allow evil to prevail at all, right? So if we're claiming to be good people, and believe it or not, I actually have a study that I'm doing on this right now. It's kind of fun. But if we're claiming to be good people, but yet we just allow this to happen, when we hear about it, we turn a blind eye, or we shrug it off, or we think, well, that's not really important, then I got to tell you, you are not classified as a good person, right? There is none good except for those that have the Spirit of Christ living in them. It is simple as that. It is only through His power we're able to do anything in this life. If it wasn't for Him, I wouldn't be on this show. I wouldn't be wasting hundreds of dollars out of my own time to do what I do, right? So there's my little spiel for the day.
Well,
I love it.
We're all on the same page with this. And it's like, I'm going to go back to President Trump, the rightful president of the United States, who's deprived his office, and all of the manipulation that's gone back. Well, let's go back to, 1871. Let's go back to before that. And when they allowed Lincoln to come in, who was an attorney.
1861.
I'm sorry, 1861. When he came in, and as an attorney, we started the absolute downfall right then and there. And now you've got the usurpation of our court systems, and you can track that right back to the private membership of the bar, which is not a license to practice law. There's no such thing. And in our Constitution, it says you have the right to counsel. Somebody said to me the other day, you're going to have to hire an attorney. I said, no, I'm not. I'm like, you have the right to counsel. Counsel, what is counsel? Whatever you choose it is. It doesn't say you have to swear allegiance to the Michigan Bar or any bar association. That is a membership. And they have been part of taking this nation down. And all you can do is see the unconstitutional Department of Justice. Norton versus Shelby County, goodbye, it doesn't exist. And whoever gets in office that really wants to right this country is going to have that whole semi full of pens for nullification.
Yeah,
I listened to the two of you in your tone, and I'm reflecting again on Trump's expressions last night. He came in with that game face on, and I went right back to the face that he was wearing when he was up against Hillary, and he was looking at her back as she's walking around on the stage, and she's doing her thing, and he just looks disgusted, absolutely disgusted. And she brought up John McCain last night in the debate, and I remember I have a picture of him that I took a screenshot of, because when John McCain died and he was sitting at his desk, and he had this disgusted look on his face, and the people were like, he's not even, being respectful of his funeral process or anything. And I'm like, no, why should he be? Because he knows the truth. He knows the truth and he's absolutely disgusted and he's tired of it. And he's expressing his disdain for this election process and the taking over of our country at the border. And why is he repeating that, hammering that over and over and over? Because those are the two biggest threats right now. And she's over there laughing. Everything he says, laughing, laughing, laughing. And I'm like, yeah, the rest of us are feeling disgusted too because we have more truth coming out because the media has been freeing us up. Telegram, Rumble. We do have ways of communicating widely to audiences what the truth about 9/11 and all these other things is. And as more people hear the truth, more people are disgusted, just like the two of you have been. And you're expressing this patriotic effort to bring that truth out. Unite Americans as Americans and not as this or that party or this or that race or religion or culture or whatever. We're Americans. And that disdain, that disgust, that anger is going to be a uniting factor for our country. I think it already is.
I want you guys to think about this, what these people in Michigan have done to us. And I want you to frame this. Okay, so people in politics think that it's a party that is bringing the candidates and that's where the money is and such. No, it's not. They're getting all their money from corporations, from dark money funds, from ways that these people know how to manipulate the money in the financial system. And you will never see how they do it. Your money doesn't matter to them. They don't need your money. They're running on a separate system. You want to know what these people in the state of Michigan did? And this is our legislature, the executive branch, the legislative branch, and the judicial branch. They're all in on this, okay? The whole thing, it's one nice tight package. And when you see some of the things that I'm going to bring out having to do with my lawsuit and tying some other people into what they've done, there's going to be more people madder than a wet hornet on what's been going on here. They took, and I believe it's an $8.1 or $2 billion surplus, and it's gone. Think about that. They grab this money and they throw it around like no tomorrow. And that doesn't even count on what they did during COVID with the COVID money. If you start looking at the financial ways that they had, because the governor is nothing more than a CEO of the state service organization to serve the people. If you had this stuff going on in a corporation, every single one of them, and I'm going to put this in a term like Enron or some of the other scandals that have gone on, they would be so gone. And there would be prosecution going on with, but think about this. They absconded with an $8 billion plus. During COVID, they got everybody thinking about, Detroit's this big city. Ooh, no, it's not. They're down to 500,000 in the population. They got $40 million of COVID money. Grand Rapids is about 1.2 and they got $1.2 million. That, ladies and gentlemen, is money laundering. When you've got all the NGOs that are out there doing their nonsense, that, my friends, is ballot stashing, an election rigging under the guise where nobody will question it, and human trafficking if they're taking one dime for moving people around.
Yep. I wanted to hit on something just a minute. What Karen was talking about regarding the debate last night, and you were talking about Trump's facial disdain for Hillary Clinton. I want to remind everybody, this is one of the huge problems I have. I want to remind everybody, one of the initial promises that President Trump had made, right, was that he was going to hire a special prosecutor to look into her case. And he said that if I'm in office, that she would be in jail, right? Neither one of which ever happened. But what happened immediately following the election? In the inaugural speech, I have a huge problem with this, all right? See it however people want to see it. in his inaugural speech, I think it was 46 seconds into his speech, President Trump had said, the American people owe a great debt of gratitude to Hillary Clinton for her service to the country. I looked at that, and that was a smack in the face to the American people from what was initially said in the campaign. I don't care what kind of disdain it shows. My point being that the justice that was promised to the American people, because we know Hillary Clinton belongs at the end of a gallows, not in jail, right?
Right.
The justice that was promised to the American people was forsaken.
Yep.
Right? I just wanted to highlight that a minute.
I'm going to throw out another way to look at things too, okay? And I don't have all the answers, none of us do. But first of all, whoever gets in office, I don't care if you like them or you don't like them, it's our responsibility to hold them accountable.
Absolutely.
And that's number one. Number two, there's not one perfect person that's walking this earth right now, because I don't know about you, but I haven't seen Jesus Christ land. And so whoever is in place, they're going to make mistakes. And when you're dealing with a criminal crime syndicate, which we are, make no mistake, when President Trump took office, he had threats that he was having to deal with, and he had to juggle threats on, do I go in this direction or do a whole bunch of people die? And was walking through a landmine.
Yep.
Of nonsense. There's not a person on the planet that was going to be able to walk through that with the structure that we had, unless somebody had the guts to absolutely tear it down.
Well,
and mercilessly tear it down to get the cockroach, the criminals out and bring them to justice. But what do you do if you've got Club K cars all over the United States and that they didn't know where they were, and I know this to be fact, that were outfitted with biological, chemical, and nuclear weapons that could have touched off and taken cities out one at a time? What's the decision? If you had to make that decision, what do you do? Well, there's not any one of us that has an answer to that, because we didn't have the information at the time.
Yep.
And knowledge. And so there's things that don't go always the way that we want it to, but there's more in play. Now, do I agree with any of this? Yeah, I'm kind of a hard liner, okay, just so that somebody said something. It would be if somebody pointed a threat at me, that threat would be annihilated, and it would be quick.
Well, and that's the guideline when we say that we don't have a way to deal with situations. I understand that in today's, let's put it this way, the people have not updated our delegated authority to our representatives in accordance with the changes throughout history, right? The new technology isn't even addressed in our Constitution, right? Except for mainly the Fourth and Fifth Amendments, where the people have the protections against it. But we have not delegated proper authority and determined usage of how those things should be put into place to deal with such things. But what we do have is any executive authority, and that could be federal or state or county or local. Any executive authority has broad authority to what in Article 1, Section 8, that they can call forth the people or the militia, the big demon word, to execute laws, right? When there's a problem, what we have is executives and legislators calling forth agencies, unconstitutional agencies, to deal with issues because the people won't do it. And at any point, there are men and women willing to stand and deal with certain issues and corruptness in not only government, but in legitimate threats to our own liberty and the security of elections, for instance. There are people willing and ready to stand up and do something about it. But we have no executive authority anywhere in this country that is willing to actually take the stand and call them forth to do their job. And let me give you a point in that. Last night was our little township meeting, right? It's the first one I've been to in a while. I've been lacking in that regard to the extreme. But last night was our township meeting, and I went there because I was specifically asked by another individual. He was going to bring up some issues, and he very well did, regarding the continuity of a township and the defense of liberty of the people if something were to ever happen. For instance, any type of government tyrannical threat or an outside threat that may come into a township, right? There is no township, to my knowledge, in the state of Michigan specifically, that has any guidelines put in place for continuity through a threat, right? So we were talking about that a little bit with our township officials, and just laying out, we should at least have a few reserves for our essential responders, like the fire department, right? They should at least have some fuel and power for their generator, right? Not attached to natural gas like it is, but a separate power source to be able to survive and be able to continue their work within the township for a period of about 6 months, right? That would give us time to figure it out.
Yep, off the grid.
Yeah, everything off the grid. We should be able to self-sustain our townships if anything happened, right? For instance, back in the 1600s, 1700s, during the transition of the nation into what we are supposed to have, one of the things that every local body had was what? They had and I can't think of the word, but they had a building for munitions, right? For arms and munitions. It's right on the tip of my tongue, and I can't.
Arsenal or armory?
An armory. There's a specific word that
Arsenal.
they use for it. But anyway, every community had that for the people. If a threat came, they would call them, they'd go, they'd arm themselves, and they deal with the threat, right? That is how this is supposed to work, and that is the one thing we don't have in any executive authority, right? They want to just delegate or perceive their own authority that was never delegated to them to utilize unconstitutional agencies to do what the people are supposed to be doing. So anyway, I tagged off that idea last night because not only should we be self-sustaining as communities and townships, but I made the point, if we are going to do this, and I told him I think we should, that there also has to be a defense mechanism, because what happens, for instance, in war, what happens to the commodities of the enemy as you go in and tactically annihilate them for all practical purposes, right? Those assets become yours. The same thing happens in local entities. When you have a township that is self-sustaining with all these different assets, now you become a threat to somebody else that may not have done that. And by all means, we should be helping out our other townships. We should be helping out our own counties in this, our neighboring counties, just as you would help your neighbor, right, if we really love them. But we have to have a defense mechanism to keep any outside force from taking the assets that we worked up. And so I am personally working with a couple other individuals establishing a local militia in this township, right? Recognized by the township board for that purpose, right? One of the reasons behind that was a couple years ago, we had a young kid, and I forget how old he was, maybe 12 to 14. His name's Colin, right? This kid just went to school, right? That was what he did, right? He was a phenomenal kid, very artistic. And this kid was drugged. He was tied behind a car and drugged down the street almost to his death by two other individuals, about 14, 15 years of age. Or I'm sorry, 15, 16 years of age, right? No justice was served for this kid. He's a vegetable in the hospital. No police force would take it up. And the only thing that happened was these two kids now are free to roam the streets again with nothing more than a tether. Right? This whole family was destroyed over that. Yet there were no men willing to stand with me and deal with the issue. That's the problem I see in our local townships.
A quick question for you. Have you looked at Holton Township in Muskegon County? Because they did create some kind of militia locally in the township. I don't know much about it, what kind of structure it may have. If it's not a structure, it's just on paper, hey, we have a right to exist kind of thing.
Yeah.
And you
So
looked at that one.
So Holton Township passed a resolution, and I have looked diligently at that. And what it is, a resolution is basically a statement, right? It's a statement saying, hey, this is where we stand on an issue. However, without any executable force, a resolution is null and void. It's just words. And that, in my
Yeah.
opinion, is what Holton County did. Because they still have they have not established what they said they would protect. Right. And there are some issues in that resolution. I wish I had it on my desktop. I have it in a file somewhere and I don't know where it is.
Okay.
But there are some
I
issues.
can't remember.
In that
So
resolution
it
as
is
well.
just it is just a resolution. So okay.
Yeah, it was a very good basis for their next step, right? And our township actually looked at that resolution as well, but didn't have the support to pass it at our board. So we're looking at going a different route. We're going to establish it, and then we're not going to ask the board for permission, but rather I'm going to go and ask the board to recognize it and call for the state to appoint a captain, or not a captain, but it would be a sergeant in a township, and then appoint a captain in the county, and then help the neighboring townships do the same thing. That's the only way we're going to secure, number one, our liberties, number two, our prosperity, number three, our laws, and number four, our elections. That's the only way we're going to do it, right? And I brought up that point as to how we're going to defend our elections. If something were to happen in an election cycle where they would tactically go into polling places and interrupt the election, right? That's very plausible at this point. I don't think anybody's going to deny that. I asked them, what's our defense mechanism for that? Because every time I go vote, I'm the only guy that's actually armed and ready to deal with any situation that may become a threat to the people. Okay, I've never seen anybody else in my township. I know of many others across the state, but there's no established defense mechanism. And the response I got was, well, we can look at getting a few deputies there. Well, deputies are funded by the state, right? They barely answer to the sheriff anymore. That's the biggest issue we have.
And they jumped right on board with this COVID nonsense and violated the Constitution by requiring. I had it in Muskegon where I was denied access because I wouldn't wear a mask, and they lied about having an order in place. They never did go and have it signed after they denied me access.
Yeah.
So it was botched, and I hold that against them massively. I mean, we have got such a crisis in this nation of integrity and honor and doing the right thing. And you know what? I'll go there. The government we have is the one we deserve. It is. It's representational of us. The fact that we allowed this to happen. That how many people do you know out there that honestly would do the right thing no matter what was thrown at them? I'd say I know maybe a short handful that I could probably count on one hand. And that's about it. Because most people don't have the fortitude to tell people to shove it right in their face, or to do the right thing no matter what was either offered them or threatened to them. Because they don't want to hurt people's feelings. They want to go along to get along. Well, you know what? Standing as a patriot or standing in the kingdom of God takes a commitment to no fear and unmovable on matters of integrity, on matters of the law, and those things that actually give us true freedom. We're all slaves right now to this beast system. You can't do one thing without this system touching you. You drive on the roads. I laugh at people say, I don't like to talk about politics. Well, everything you do has something to do with politics. You pay taxes, well, then you're funding the things you hate.
Yeah, you're paying for your own demise.
We're paying for our own demise. We're funding the invasion at the border right now. Our tax dollars, as well as, our tax dollars aren't as important as how they've rigged it economically with all the corporation and the corporate welfare that's going on. Anything they get in from us or business or anything, they're throwing at these big corporations and putting the mom and pop businesses out of business. We're literally funding our demise. And those that are sitting in the seats have not done one thing to help because they're all in.
You know what? Let me end with this story that I've used in the past. regarding the ability of one person to make a difference, right? There's examples of that all over the place, but I wanted to tie that in a little bit more with the Spirit's power that I was talking about earlier. This is the epitome of what every individual should be doing. There was a church, and we're going back decades. We're going back into the 70s, right? But there was a church that had a fairly small congregation, about 30 or 40. And a group came in with the intent of killing everyone in the church, all right? The church was not armed in defense of itself, but rather they ended up lining everybody up against the wall, right? And when Christ said that the kingdom of heaven is like unto a little child, and that no man may enter in unless he becomes as a little child, right? This is the example of that, the faith of a little child that we should all have. So one by one, they took the cross off the wall, threw it on the floor, and one by one, they told everybody to denounce their faith, and they had to walk across the top of that cross, and they would spare their life. And one by one, everybody did. It sickens me. Until this little 8-year-old girl came along. She was marching right behind everybody else, and she got to that cross, and she walked around it. And they shot her for it. Everybody after that walked around that cross and was shot for it.
Mm.
But it took the faith of one little girl to make a difference. And yet we have men out there that can't even come up and voice the opinion of what they know is right. Right? James 4:17 tells us if you know to do right and do it not, that's a sin.
To him
right?
it is a sin. Yep.
Yeah. And we have so many people out there that know what's right to do and refuse to do it. I wonder how many people today would step on that cross. How many people today would step on the Constitution in fear of their life, right? I'm not willing to do it. I'm going to hold to it, and I'm going to hold to the law, and I'm going to hold to what we're told to do. Because if we don't do that, the people following behind us, if anything, the posterity following behind us are going to do the same things they see us do. So let's be that one person, that one change that goes outside of the norm and holds to what's right every time that we have the opportunity to do so.
And
lest we curse the next generation to do the same.
That's a great way to end this segment. And I want to thank everybody for being here today. I know Jalise is on with her guest, so we're going to move on to the next segment. And you said it very, very, very well. The insanity that is going on out there, and people are just like being blown around by the wind instead of put your feet, sink your feet right into the rock of Christ and don't move. It's like, that's all. You can say stick your feet into concrete, but I'm going to say stick yourself to that rock of Christ and do not move. And he'll give you the strength. If you're willing, he will equip you. This is not a battle about, it's not even our battle. The battle is the Lord. All we got to do is the right thing and stand. You don't feel like we're carrying the weight of the world on our shoulders. This is God's battle. And when he is that, it will be finished. And there's gonna be no this wishy-washy crap that's going on. Stand with God and no fear. Thanks for being on today, guys. I really appreciate it. This is a great discussion. I love this show. So we're going to go ahead and go to the next segment. And I love you all very much. And I'm proud to stand with you every single day. And every day that I've known all of you, your friends, you've become closer than family. And I love you all very, very much. And thank you for everything you do for this nation. Thank you. Thank you for everything.
Thank you for having us. Yep. Don't forget to send your case along. I'll do a review for it.
Yeah,
sounds like a good one.
I'm also sending out the resolution to anybody that wants to on the 8 o'clock Zoom call tomorrow night. I gave you my phone number yesterday. I put it out there because we can't stand here like cowards. This is 616-430-4410. If you text me, I will include you in on the call tomorrow night where we're working on these resolutions. And I think this is going to be a huge thing, because we're not going to just sit around, whining and sobbing about what's not being done. We're going to get in there. We're going to work and make it happen. And if you want to work, not just come for the free coffee, I hate to say it, but I'm a CEO and I'm a wonderful delegator. I'll use Bill's word. We're going to volunteer you that we come to do this, because having everybody like little baby birds out there hoping somebody's going to solve all their problems, and all they got to do is chip in $200 and sit back and criticize, those days are done. You've got to get in the game. You've got to be willing to work, not talk, but work and actually do something. And so with that said, since I'm not there, Ralph, can you cue the music? We're going to go to a quick break, and then I'll be on with Jalise and her guests, and we'll be back doing this again next week. We do the same time, same bat channel. Okay, guys, and spread the word. Get more people out there watching this, because we need to educate each other and we need to come together. And I don't care what you think you are. You're an American, and we live in the kingdom of God. That's it.
Amen.
All right. We'll be right back. Good morning and welcome to the second and third hour of Brandenburg News Network. I am Donna Brandenburg, and it is 9/11/2024, and we're remembering the things that happened and have happened in the past of our country, the attacks on Americans on American soil. And with that said, I'm going to bring on my next guest, Jalise Middleton, and the J6ers, who have been part of the attacks on Americans on American soil, and we are disgusted with this. This is absolute disgust we have for what's happened against our fellow Americans on American soil, and not one of them has stood up, take a stand, and make sure that the ones that are perpetrating these crimes are held accountable, and also defend our American family. The attacks are going to come if we don't stand up right now. If you don't stand up right now, I can guarantee you're going to be on the list next. And if they want to add any of us to the list, put mine on the top in big bold letters, because if they want to fight, we're going to give it to them, and guaranteed the can of whoop ass they're opening up is going to be amazing. So welcome to the show this morning. Thank you for being on today, Jalise and Tim.
Thank you for having us on, Donna. Definitely a monumental day. I'm glad that I was able to get Tim in here short notice and get some information to the people, because honestly, what we're dealing with right now is an extension from 9/11. It's hard for people to imagine, but because of 9/11, Bush implemented the Patriot Act, and now all the rights and our freedoms are taken away through that Patriot Act. So in essence, J6ers are in fact the carnage from 9/11.
Yep. And so is every single American that is here. You may not think you've got fallout from it, but you do. And it goes back from that. It goes back to 1861. The usurpations have been coming on for quite a long time. And but the direct attacks against the United States of America, it's undeniable. We have more evidence against the elections, the stolen elections that we've had, than any crime in the history of the world. And not one of these people in the seats has done anything of note to actually go after the target that's going to, in fact, right this nation. They talk, they talk, they talk. They do nothing. Marjorie Taylor Greene, in the case of the J6ers, everybody's, oh, she's such a nice person. You know, the road to hell is paved with nice people, okay? And it's like, she's such a nice person. She's done nothing. And any of these people could have waged war against what they saw within the system, but they can't do that because they're gonna implicate themselves. So with that said, my hand is actually cramping up here. I'm holding my phone. I've held it there for an hour, and
Well, we're on short notice with Tim anyway, so we will just jump right to it.
I'm going to let you go in because you're absolutely able to do this, and I love it. I really do like the fact that we're able to do this back and forth, and I want to thank both of you for everything that you have done to stand for this nation. I am so full of gratitude to those of you who stood unwavering under threat, coercion, false imprisonment, and all of this nonsense that's going on. God knows. God's going to vindicate this. God's going to vindicate you, and it's going to be glorious. But it took you to stand unwavering with guts, and I'm proud. I'm very proud to stand with you, and I'm proud to have you on BNN. And we're going to continue to bring these stories out of abuse by our government. The enemy of the people is our government, and so off base. We've been infiltrated. They usurped our rights, and they're involved in criminal activity right now. And so thank you very much for being here. I'm going to jump off, and we will be talking to you tomorrow. Tomorrow I've got Marley Hornick. I'm going to be talking about I talked about my proprial that has been filed yesterday, and tomorrow we'll be talking about another one that I signed on as a plaintiff, and it's a good lawsuit. Bruce Castor, one of President Trump's attorneys, was involved in this, as some other very noteworthy people, and we fight this fight. So I'll be on tomorrow with Marley Hornick, and we'll be talking about the lawsuit, and then Ammon Bundy is going to be on Friday. So we'll be seeing you. Go out and take a stand in favor, and we'll be talking to you tomorrow. Thanks, guys.
See you later. Thank you. Well, Tim, I know we're on borrowed time with you, so I'm cutting to the chase. We want information from you, so I'm just going to tell the viewers real quick who you are and what you're about. Every now and then y'all see us, American Patriot Relief, talking about the real heroes in January 6th, and that is those that has ran into the fire to help save the January 6th defendants. And that is Tim. He is one of those. He is the owner of the American Gulag Chronicles, the founder. And he is actually in a hurricane in a car to bring some information to y'all that is so important. You've got a great opportunity. I'm having trouble loading the documents, but I am going to try to get that posted up here while he talks about where he's headed right now.
Well, thank you for having me on. Yeah, we are racing Francine across Louisiana to try and make the Texas border before it comes up. I'm betting odds we're going to beat her because we got right on our side. But the where we're headed is an event that I don't think has ever been done before. It is a new organization that we created to try and give conservative voices a way to get published, to get their films out. It's called Unredacted Media. It is a public benefit corporation in Texas. It's our third organization. We started with J6 Patriot News, which you can find us at j6patriotnews.com. Everything that's current about our fight and our J6ers. And then we started American Gulag Chronicles, which you can find at lettersfromprison.us to let those letters and things come out. And now we've created Unredacted Media, which is about letting conservative voices find their way to the public marketplace. So in films, in audiobooks, in writing books, and published books, we are going to be a voice of the unheard. And our first event is starting on Friday. It's in just outside of Dallas. It's in Greenville, Texas. It is an in-person invite only to be at the location, but it's being streamed to the world. And you will get an opportunity to be a participant in this It is a First Amendment film outreach, FAFO, and it's also what we are calling the 1A Film Festival. This is our first festival. It has 12 incredible documentaries that are going to take you basically through an educational role of what has happened to us in the last 8 to 10 years. And we're going to start with the pandemic and then come all the way through to what is treason. There are 2 world premiere documentaries in here by J.J. Carroll, and I won't even give the other one away. It's going to be really a one of a kind of event. I'm calling it the Clark Kent Convention because the invitees for the VIP represent what I would say the superheroes of this movement, people who have put everything on the line, like Jalise and Mark, and who unfortunately can't come because of the federal government. But you're going to see some amazing people if you come to this film festival virtually, either through your $25 ticket price, and you can get that at 1afilmfest.com. And then even though the festival is running only 3 days, you'll be able to watch everything that happened in the festival in our post-production, which will be available until our next festival, probably at the end of the year. So you're looking at, if you can't make the live streaming event, which is really going to be spectacular, you can use our post-production package. Not only will you see everything that you could have seen live, but you're going to see the things that happened that are not live streamed. The award ceremony, the presentations by J6ers, phone calls from prison. There's going to be some very important content. And I want to tell you, you can have a watch party. I don't want you to have to buy a ticket for everybody. Buy one ticket. Invite every friend. Invite the people you like. Invite the people you don't like. Invite people you wanted to red pill, but you just never really wanted to get into that conversation. This is your chance. These movies will red pill them. You're going to see something. I'm just going to tell you, it's a little of some of it's horrifying, but it must be seen. You cannot turn away from this. I tell you again, Jeremy Brown tells me over and over again, don't do nothing. If you can't do anything little, just watch the movies, get informed, inform your friends, share the content, invite people to watch it. This is your chance to make a difference in November, to educate people. So they walk in that ballot box, they know exactly what they need to do to restore this republic. This is a one-of-a-kind event. David Sumrall, myself, and Tamara Lee have formed this new company. We hope to add other J6 luminaries to the board of directors. And like our other organizations, we are all about being public benefit to bring truth to the public. We're message first and dollar second. So you can help with this, or you can get informed, and you're going to really, it's a one-of-a-kind event. You will not regret paying your $25 for this. Go to 1afilmfest.com, get your streaming ticket, start inviting your friends, get your church group over, get those people you like to politic with around the water cooler, invite your neighbors, invite the folks who still believe this was not a stolen election, and let's get the truth out there before November, because you are the key. Every single one of you are the keys to this. Just like everybody was telling, just like Donna was telling you, you cannot sit on the fence and watch this anymore. You cannot blog from your keyboard. You cannot watch TV and go, damn, that was a horrible debate. You must get off your butt and do something, or this republic is done. And if it is, then the things that are happening to Jalise and Mark are going to happen to you.
That is absolutely right. In fact, my life is in the hands of the viewers at this point. Me and Mark are due to go to sentencing October 22nd. And if we do not have President Trump in there, me and Mark fully anticipate being tortured in the prisons of America, where they are on the daily. We have stories being released of prisoners being tortured in unique and disgusting ways on our own soil. And that's looking to happen to me and Mark. And the only way around that is going to be getting President Trump back in office, because he has committed to pardon the January 6th defendants. Why would he do that, you may ask? Because he knows the truth. He was there. What they showed you on TV was a production. It was not what happened. The select committee had a TV producer to make the committee. It's a lie from the very core. And I just plead with the American people. It is your time to rise. We're not asking you to break the law. We're asking you to be the American citizen that you are called to be. We're not here just to be a parasite sucking off of this country. We're called to be the country. And so, Tim, y'all are doing amazing work. Also, plead with the people. You want to get educated or have memorabilia, this is going to be your only history lesson. Okay?
Oh, yeah.
They're covering this up. So therefore, go to the AmericanGulagChronicles.com. He's got 2 books out. One is called The Art of Confinement, and one is called Letters from Prison. I encourage you to get those. Get those for your grandchildren. Get those for your children, because this is telling you about the woes and tortures going on American soil right here in America in our prisons. And the letters are just unbelievable. I'm going to be honest with you. I have the books. I can't read them. When you're looking at that being your future, it's a little bit too much to handle. So, but Tim has been a warrior. I love you. I know you've got to get off the air. Would you like for me to call you so that you could keep rolling forward, or do you need to just call it from here? I'm putting the show in your hands.
Yeah, I've only got like 1 bar here, so I'm actually doing pretty good for 1 bar. But I am going to race Francine to that border. I'm a little concerned in my high-profile vehicle about the windage. If we get up into that cone, I think we're really ahead of it. But you know what? This festival is so huge, even the hurricane wants to come. I'm telling you, if you miss this one, there will be future regret.
Yes, I love it. And you look at it, nothing is stopping this man, and it hasn't from day one. So I'm going to let him jump off to stay safe. I'm very worried about him. I've even got a team headed to Louisiana. I'm worried about them. So I understand that full well. So you just stay safe, get on the road, and I'm going to continue to plug this on. I wasn't able to get your stuff up. I don't think I have access from the IT yet to post anything, but I'm going to pound this puppy home while you're driving. So
awesome. Okay. 1A, we're going to give you 4 websites real quick. 1afilmfest.com for the festival. Most importantly, write these men and women and let them know you have not forgotten them. patriotmailproject.com. How I got started. patriotmailproject.com. So simple. A stamp, a letter, and you will make a difference in somebody's life. Go to J6patriotnews.com if you want to find out what's happening, whose birthday's in prison, who's getting released, who's going in, what's happening in the court system, how our J6ers are joining in this fight. J6patriotnews.com. And I always tell you, lettersfromprison.us, you can find our books, and go to American Patriot Relief and get in the game. Thank you, Jalise. Thank you for what you and Mark do. You guys are beacons out here. We are facing the fight of our lives, and it's time for you, America, to get off the couch.
that is absolutely right. Thank you, Tim. Thank you for all you do. So with that said, I'm going to roll forward and y'all get another monologue from me. I knew Tim was going to be on short notice, but I thought it was so important. And so I kind of switched things around today. And I wanted him to have a chance to tell y'all about this 1A Film Festival. The ticket's only $20, and here's why it's such a big deal. $25, I think. I'll go ahead and look it up for y'all. But the reason this is such a big deal is because these are documentaries that have been very well done, and they back it up with all the facts. We've got the video, the data, everything. And the reason that is such an issue is because it's $25, by the way, is because that's what the government is doing. They're covering this up. And through our, as Trump calls it, fake news, they are not telling you the facts. They're covering stuff up. They're making things look one way when it's really another. And that's why they won't release the body cam footage to the public. That's why they won't release the 41,000 hours. It's because their own FBI agents, CIA agents, DHS agents, along with the CHS is confidential human sources. These are prisoners or people that has violated the law in the past. They were looking to go to prison, and they go in and they offer them a reduced sentence in order to if they'll trade out some work for them. In other words, if if they will spy on or do whatever the FBI asks them to do for their own agenda, then they will give them a reduced sentence and basically let them break the law however they need to accomplish their dirty work. So we have, I don't know if y'all know this, so I'm going to jump off track for a minute. So on all the front lines of January 6th that day, what I mean by front lines is where you saw the worst attacks, the worst fighting, right? Right there at the front of all those lines, they have identified about 54 to 57 different people that were on those front lines doing very nefarious stuff, you know, attacking police, breaking down doors, breaking down barricades, blah, blah, blah. And you may wonder, well, how do I know those aren't patriots, or how do I know those aren't Antifa? Because the government has refused to go after them. They're not on the FBI most wanted. A few of them accidentally made it there. Ray Epps is one of them. That they weren't paying attention and let him go on the most wanted, and then went oops and hurry and took him down. Okay, they claim they cannot identify who they are. I'm a J6er, guys. They can identify who they are. I'm just telling you right now, they can identify who they are. All those cute little apps you have on your Facebook where you can try different hair colors, you can try different glasses. That's all facial recognition software that they're keeping updated every time you do that. That way they have the most recent side profiles, up, down, everything they need for your face to lock in your identity so that they can facial recognize you wherever you're at, whether you're at a stoplight, whether you're in a parking lot. So this is what's being used, okay? All of a sudden, that facial recognition software doesn't work on the most nefarious people on the front lines. But yet someone like me and my husband that were praying at the barricades, and all of a sudden, even though our face is all wrapped up, you can recognize us. Come on. So with that said, these film festivals, this film festival that's being held, it's got a ton of movies in it. Y'all have heard of them, and you probably have wanted to see them. So I'm just going to list some of them off for you, because this $25 ticket is getting you access to all of them. And if I understood him correctly, it's not just that one night you have access to them. You can pull this stuff back up. You can send it out to friends. You can have a party at your house and show different movies. You can, if you're tightly connected into your church, have a film festival at your church. Wouldn't it be awesome to, every week for a 6-week period or however long, host a movie night? You have so many options. And we have movies like Let My People Go, that was done by Professor David Clements. We've got Plandemic 3, The Great Awakening by Mickey Willis. Another one I'm seeing here, Between Lambs and Lions by Mark Sutherland. The Journalist Battle of January 6th by Daniel Goodwin. 1,000 Days of Terror by David Summerall. A True Timeline by Daniel Goodwin, David Summerall, Jason Rink, and Paul Eskendon. I hope I got that right. Sorry if I didn't. I got a weird name, so I'm used to mine being mispronounced. So with that said, and that's just a few of them. That is not all of them, but I want to touch on the J6, A True Timeline. This particular documentary to me was earth-shattering, and I'm sure it was for the government too, because they did everything they could to make sure that film did not get promoted. They kept taking it down. They kept flagging the content as disinformation. They kept, what do they call, ghosting it, where when you'd look at, try to look at it, it wasn't there. They did so much to cover this film up, and I'll tell you why. David Summerall with StopHate.com has the most video evidence on his website. So you can go to StopHate.com to look at this. He's got the most video footage out of January 6th. And not to mention, he's had access to all of it. So that's a good point too. But he used all of that video evidence to build the timeline and show you, like, at 1:32 what was happening at the ellipse, at the Washington Monument, at the Capitol on the West Lawn, at the Capitol on the East Side, and what was happening in Congress at that time, in the congressional offices or whatever. The reason he did this is because the math does not add up. Okay, it simply doesn't add up. So he don't give you a bunch of opinion. This isn't, one person's regurgitated information that they took in themselves to decide to impute on you. All he does is lay out the timeline facts, and you do with it as you may. And I think that is so powerful for a documentary, because the fact of the matter is nobody's doing that. And the government didn't want that done because they knew it didn't add up. For instance, why would there be such a vicious attack if we were, insurrecting? Why was there such a vicious attack on the west side of the Capitol and nothing going on the east side of the Capitol? Why did it happen before Trump's speech ever ended? Wouldn't all the Trump supporters be there to hear Trump speak? And I, for one, was there early on, but as I'd explained to the viewers before, I'm disabled. It takes me a long time to walk, and it was like 2 miles to get from the Washington Monument over to the Capitol. I didn't want to impede people and be in the way. I was sick of being tripped over and falling over, and I just wanted to take my time and get up front and up close at the Capitol so that I could sit and watch my favorite speakers speak, which obviously never happened. So, there's questions like that this timeline actually points out and highlights a lot. Another movie is January 6th, Part 3, The War on Truth by Chris Burgard. Mark and I are in that video, that documentary. It's very short, but we're in there. And I look forward to you checking that out also. Y'all, this is a really great film festival. And Bloody Hill, my goodness, it doesn't stop. Bloody Hill is going to be on there. That's one made by David Sumrall and Andrew Mullenix. MAGA 2024, The Crucible of Donald Trump by Adam Riva. The American Gulag Chronicles, Letter from Prison. So he's going to be reading out of that. So this is such a great opportunity, y'all. And here's the deal, we've got to allow people to have their own opinions. And that's actually what's making Americans scared to go public and talk about these things, is because they're scared of the confrontation. But it doesn't have to be a confrontation. That's what's so amazing. We're still in a country where people have freedom to believe what they want to believe and to speak their mind. Now, granted, this current regime, this coup that has taken over our country, is trying to take that away. But you still have it at this point. So what I'm challenging you is, when we can humble ourselves before the Lord and love our neighbor as ourselves, like we're called to do, then we're okay with them having their own opinion. We're okay with them believing what they want to believe. Now, we love them enough to try to educate them. And so we can talk about it humbly, and we can hear them humbly. Okay, I've heard a lot of opinions that I'm like, okay, you are out there in left field. You are wrong. But I don't have to tell them that. That's the beauty of it. I can respect where they're coming from. And if the Lord puts something on my heart that I'm like, ooh, that's going to put, a dagger in that opinion, I'm going to do that gently with love and just say, did you know, blah, 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 blah. I'm trying to produce an opportunity for you to have an intelligent conversation with someone without trampling all over their belief system. And when we get this art back of listening, loving, and confronting in love, I believe that we can educate even people on the other side of the aisle without confrontation. And that's what it's going to take, because nobody wants to be disrespected. Nobody likes being told they were wrong. And so you don't have to tell them they're wrong. You can even embrace their own way of thinking, and then question it. Start asking questions. Okay, so I believed this had happened, and you're saying that happened, or I listened to that speech and I heard him make a joke about that, but you're telling me you think it was factual. There's ways to do things. So this 1A Film Festival is an opportunity to do that, where there's not even conversation, except in between shows. Invite them to the house. Say, I just want your opinion on this. I want to have both sides of the story, and I want to see what you think about it. And because it is all these documentaries are shocking. I even learned things in them that I didn't realize was going on in other places. So again, go to 1afilmfest.com and grab your virtual tickets. You can, and please, I always say this, go to patriotmailproject.com, find a prisoner to write to them, because that is a really big deal also. The J6patriotnews.com, that's actually where I stay informed. I get on there. I learn about these people. I learn what's going on. They're always at the forefront. For instance, I don't know if y'all, the listeners heard, or you, Donna, but the Marjorie Taylor Greene actually did something this week. She held a committee hearing to let people speak their piece. And we had some of the best representation. In fact, Brandy Bowen, that was on here interviewing with me last week, went in front of her and she shared her story along with her attorney. And this is really important. I don't know whether it'll go anywhere, because after all, they're one person. But I was proud to see something other than showboating for your dollars and for re-election.
Well, that's good to know that she did something, because we're all about telling stories here and letting people know the truth, whatever it may be. And I think that's so important to have these discussions on and such. And so I just thank you for what everybody's doing out there. Do you have is Howard coming on today, or is he not going to be on today?
Howard is not coming on, but we have Greg Rubenacre that is due on next hour. And that's in about 50, whenever he comes into the show. I think he's due to come on in about 10 minutes. And in the meantime, like I say, I'm kind of bringing people up to speed on what's been going on out there as far as in the J6 community, along with this 1A Film Festival is massive. I don't even know how to put words to it because of how many documentaries you're going to have access to at this point. And the reason it's such a big deal is it's $25. We were paying that much for one of them, right? And now we can have access to all of them.
Well, that's good. So can you tell me some more stories, like about give me a little bit of a upcoming on what Howard's going to be talking about?
So, like I say, Howard, I'll have to bring him on at a later date. I don't know what happened with him yesterday, but I wasn't able to secure him in today. Howard has just gotten out of prison, and he was our oldest January 6th defendant that has been incarcerated. And he went through extensive torture in the prisons at the BOP. He really had been through a lot. Many times we had to do some calls to action for him. And he was stroke prone. They took away his veteran benefits. He's married. They're retired. His wife at her age had to come out of retirement and go back to work at like 72 years old. This was a level of atrocity. They've used these guys served our country, and they've used their service to our country against them, of now deeming them dangerous. And that's why they needed to pretrial, put them in prison pretrial, is because of their skill level from being in the military. And then they pull their benefits away from their family that's keeping them alive and in their home. what do you do at that age? It's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's really too bad. And I mean, I think that what people need to realize is that this is real people, this is real people's lives that this is affecting on a daily basis. And the other thing is that if we don't stand up and fight for the rights of others, our rights will be next. The time to just stand still is over, and we're going to have to work together and get over some of our things that we disagree with and such, and just it's so important. And I'd like to talk to him, because what kind of torture did he have?
So I don't remember all the details of his. Unfortunately, I follow so many of the January 6th defendants and the prisoners that I'll get their stories mixed up if I'm not careful. So I'm always very reluctant to go into the details. That's why I want them on the air. And I want him to have that story, because I do plan on trying to get him back in here. I do know that he struggles with significant health problems. If I recall right, he had a stroke in prison without medical care, and they refused the medical care. They're doing that actually right now with several people. That has been an ongoing issue from day one of denying them medical care. We've had guys in prison with cancer that they let them go to stage 4 without treatment. We've had several prisoners that were actually beaten and attacked by the guards. One of them, it was a police officer out of Tennessee. That was Colt Maccabee. The sad thing about his is all because he didn't wear a face mask to go get his medication that you would have had to take the mask down for. You hear that? They attacked him and downloaded a can of pepper spray on him, bear spray, in his cell, and then left him there over 24 hours without getting a shower. And, there's tortures like that are over and over. And by the way, that was proven on video. The guard did lose her job over that. Ryan Sampson's another one that was beaten and abused in the prison system. He was beaten so bad he lost vision in one of his eyes, had a broke hand. They refused to give him medical treatment, and his hand actually healed up deformed. He's, I believe, best I can understand, permanently disabled, and at this point still trying to get medical care 3 years later. So this is all happening on American soil, and Richard is one of those that Howard Richardson is one of those that suffered that kind of treatment. And so I like to get those stories out when I can, but as you can imagine, there's a lot of emotional trauma with that, and we kind of got to take it as opportunity arises. Some of them are still scared to speak out. I wish I could say all 1,500 January 6th defendants are vocal and warriors and fighting this path. Some of them have went into hiding and are fearful. And I don't knock anybody. I feel like once you've been through this and you have the full weight of the government on your back, people are going to react different ways. So I feel like I've been called to it. The Lord has strengthened me for it, so I'm in it to win it. But I recognize that not all people are called to be what I am for the J6 community, or what Tim is, or you. So we give them that mercy and just pray for them. But I wish I could have a January 6th defendant on this show from now on and get all 1,500 voices out there, but that's not going to happen because there are so many that are in fear. We've got, I would venture to say, about 300 that are willing to speak out and stand firm. But of those, about 200 are in prison. So there you have it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's, well, you got.
Uh-oh. We got you hung up there. She was trying to give conversation. There you are.
Yeah, I like listening to the individual messages because, I think that that's really where we need to go in a decentralized way, and that's the, that's kind of the focus that we have here on BNN, is talking to individuals, and I think that's where the strength is a decentralized message where people just come on and tell their story, you know, and really, you know, happy and proud to talk to everybody who have actually taken a stand. So I don't know, there's so much work to be done. It's just incredible. It really is incredible how much work that we really have to do as a nation, because this is just one example of usurpations, right? And as to your point, that this is a natural outcome of 9/11 on today, 9/11. It really is. And, you know, to really be treating that with respect for the individual lives that have actually been so harmed and touched by criminals in our government. And I don't know, it's just incredible. Every day that we go through this, and I'm just more and more shocked at living government. I don't know if you heard Bill talk about it this morning, but and was talking about a young man that was dragged behind a vehicle and is a vegetable now, and nobody did anything. Those guys are out walking the street. His family's been destroyed. It's just like fentanyl. I met with somebody last night, or I talked with somebody who's part of Fentanyl Fathers, and they go free of charge to talk to people about fentanyl. He lost his son to fentanyl. This isn't a joke anymore, and
Right.
I never was a joke, but it's just like it just is not a joke anymore what's happening to this nation. And every single person needs to step forward and be loud. And you know, it's like going to festivals and listening to the information out there is a great starting point, but that's not the ending point. The ending point out there and doing, what are you going to do with it? If you're just going to go to a festival and listen to more information, what's the point? If you can't get in, if you can't get in the game and decide that you're going to make a difference on an individual basis, you might as well sit home and eat bonbons. Because,
you know, Donna, this is what scares me so much, is there is nothing more important to me than my relationship with Jesus Christ and the protection and future of my children and grandchildren. Nothing. Like, there's nothing more important. And I cannot fathom how the American people are sitting on this and not screaming from the rooftops. If my life gets cut short 30 years to protect my children and my grandchildren, it's well worth it. Because listen, we all know we've got eternal life. It's just where you're going to spend it, right? You're going to spend eternal life in heaven with Jesus. You're going to spend it in hell. It's up to the individual. Has every one of your children accepted Christ? Have they had that opportunity? Or are you damning them to hell by allowing this? And that's what's so amazing to me, is the Christians above anybody else, because they're secure. And the scriptures tell us, if you love your life, you'll lose. If you try to save your life, you lose it. If you try to, if you don't, the scripture, I'm getting mixed up. But why I'm saying that, why that's so important, is because our children are at stake. Their future is at stake. And they're going to look back at how you walked it when it all hit. And
right.
you're hiding.
Well, and I'm going to say this because this is something that has to be talked about. There's a lot of content creators that have done documentaries. There's a lot. I've seen film festivals. I've seen documentaries all over the place. And I'm going to throw this out there, popular or not. This is a dead end game if you're just going to go and listen. And I'm sorry, but the time of just going and showing up for the free coffee and cookies, showing up for saying it's only $25, that's all you have to put out for it, is absolute bullshit. And I'm going to tell you why. It is because it's an excuse to go and think people did something, but there's no plan after that. And on an individual basis, people have got to get in the game, and they've got to be willing to do something. And it's not about money. If you're doing it for money, get out of the way. And I don't care if they're content. I don't care if they're just people. If you're doing this for money or to create an industry, shame on you. You will stand damned before God.
That is the beautiful thing that's going on, because it starts with education. If you don't know what's going on, if you can't hold an intelligent conversation about what's going on, and you're right, that is what this is for. The $25, I think it's important to mention that everything the American Gulag Chronicles takes in with Tim Rivers goes right back out into the J6ers. They partner with the American Patriot Relief to support the January 6th defendants and their families through this battle. Because after all, if they get killed in the process, if they give up and commit suicide like 12 of them have already, then we've lost the battle for them. So we have to keep them in the game. And after all, y'all want them in the game because they're on the head of the spear, not you. So you better keep that in mind too. So the point of it is to get that money in there to keep them going, educate you. And you're absolutely right. If you're just going to go home and talk about what a tragedy is, you failed.
You failed. And that is my point right there, is that I want everybody to look at this. If all the money is going back to the J6ers to help, then you come to the table not with $25, but make a donation and get in there and help them. It's like, it's not enough to just go for the cookies. And then find out what you can do in a material way, your own self, where you're writing letters, you're asking Jalise how you can help. It's like, don't just the cookies. And that's what and to me, the J6ers to help them, you're saving lives. Then you need to make a plan and an individual commitment that you're not just gonna like play with like hitting a balloon up in the air because it's fun. Grab that ball and run with it and help the people that are willing to stand forward. So I guess that's my I sat and I was listening to this as I was driving. I was just listening to, and such. And I'm like, there's got to be more to this that's in other than just a commercial to make people feel like they're doing something. Because you know what? It's great, but it's a starting point. And we can't drop the ball and just say, come and do this. It's like, do this. And then let's have a plan. What are you going to do when you turn it off and you walk out that door? Are you going to let these people fight it by themselves, or are you going to stand with them with, as it says in the Declaration of Independence, with your time, your treasure, and your sacred honor? Yeah. And it's all in there. It's your treasure. It's your treasure, your sacred honor. It's everything we have. We have to stand together. And I think I quoted that wrong right now too, but you guys get the picture.
I know, it's like when we're on the fly, what are you going to do? The people definitely know what we're talking about. And sadly, far too many I have
it out there, Jalise, to kind of give everybody a little bit more of a push to this, because it's like if you get into something just because you want to show up, get out of the way. Because you're dragging us down, because that means that we got to carry your dead weight with us. But if you want to show up and you want to put some help to these people behind it, now we're talking. You can say every word you want, but if you're not willing to do the work, it doesn't count. And there's my last little bit of CEO Donna's ass chewing there to get people moving. It's like I'm like a general. I'm like biting at people's feet. I'm like, come on, get moving. And
I love it. And we need it. You're right. Everyone's called according to their purpose.
Yeah, no crying in the gym, no sobbing, no whining about why things are wrong. I'm done of it. I don't even want to hear what's wrong anymore unless there's some motion forward. We already know what's wrong. We already know what's wrong. Now it's time to do the work and pick it up. So I'm going to jump off here, and then I'm going to have somebody trigger the intro, and then we'll go to the third hour with Jalise. And who do you have on? You have Greg?
Greg Rubenacre. Yes, indeed.
Okay. So so she'll be right back.
Thank you.
Well, until I wait here, tomorrow we'll be on with, hang on a minute, I guess I got to cue somebody up here. Tomorrow we'll be on with Marley Hornick with the other lawsuit that I left on.
doing?
Hey, how are you?
Yeah, I am doing fantastic. I want to take a minute and introduce you to the listeners. Greg Rubenacker is also, or is it Rubenacker or Rubenacker?
Knacker.
Knacker. That's what I was thinking. I got my Southern drawl going in there. So Greg Rubenacker is one of our January 6th defendants that is in a halfway house. So like when we have brought on Don Hazard or Christian Manley, guys, they're in the battle right now. We're pulling them off the battlefield to do these interviews. So that means it can be loud, it can be chaotic, because they're not in a stable spot. And, you know, I just want to point out to the listeners, when we have these guys on here, they are in the middle of suffering. And I think that's so important because you see the tenacity and the faithfulness of them standing firm, even through the frustration, the disappointments, the separation from family. And that's why I always refer to this more as a war zone, because we're in the middle of a lawfare, a war with the legal system. So, anyway, Greg, I want you to introduce yourself and who were you before January 6th? What were you doing? What did your life look like?
Well, I was a full-time musician. Been doing music since 2016. A lot of the articles were saying that I was a DJ, but I actually haven't DJed in quite some time. That's kind of where I started off years ago. During COVID, probably around like 2019, I stopped DJing and I kind of went into the production side of everything.
Mm-hmm.
And I went full force with that for a year. And then in 2020, things started coming full circle in the beginning of 2020. I was doing more of the hip hop side. And in the end of February, I went down to Virginia Beach to be in Timberland studio. So that's when I knew things were gonna be like starting to like flip. And I was like, I could really do this.
So what is special about Timberland Studio that
Well,
told you that
Timberland,
was a turning point?
well, he's a legend. So once I got there, I was just like, I'm just destined for greatness. I'm like, it's not like this isn't a joke anymore. And I know that I could do this like for a living. And
So
then
until that point, you were just kind of messing around with it. You're young, so how old are you now?
I'm 28.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, you're one of our babies. So
On
okay,
January 6th, I was 24.
that's crazy. Okay, so you were just messing around with this, kind of like the garage band, having some fun DJing. You come, and all of a sudden you realize, oh, I just moved up in my game. Like I'm going to be able to make this happen.
Yeah, and then right before COVID happened, I don't know if you're familiar, but I mean he's a pretty big artist. By 21, his name's 21 Savage. But he has an album with Drake and everything, and his producer. I was working with this producer for a little bit, and he was going to fly me out to Atlanta, and we were gonna start working on things and trying to get placements for other artists, like Chance the Rapper and stuff. And COVID happened, so that never happened.
Okay.
And
Now,
then
what led you to the Capitol that day? So roll forward. You've obviously you're building on a career. You're very young. But how did you even, were you always into politics and knew what was going on? Or, why did you show up January 6th?
Well, actually, no, I wasn't. I wasn't always into politics at all. But during COVID, um, there was so much downtime that I started just like, I'm like, something it just didn't make any sense to me. So, I started doing my own research and stuff, and I was never really into the news. So, like, my news cycle's always been um, like independent journalists and journalism outside like the media. Like, I never was like gonna sit there and just watch the news for an hour. I don't know, just
Right.
that never sat with me. So, I mean, it really first started with, when like I would go on like a forum and people would be like, "Oh, you should look into this, you should look into that." And then when you like actually start looking up these things, and it's like crazy too, because like a lot of the things that I would look are just like you can literally go on like FBI.gov and like look up all these documents.
What?
And
You're saying you don't need to be spoon fed your information? You could actually do it on your own?
yeah, I mean, I just that's just how I am. I'd rather just read like an actual like federal document instead of someone telling me what I should think. Like that's how I think, but that's not how a lot of people think. But if you're gonna take the hour to watch the news, you might as well just take the hour and just read what's like being said.
Oh, I love it. Okay, so now you don't realize, but you've drawn a really hard opinion that something's fishy with COVID. So obviously, that's what took you there that day. I know for me, I've told the listeners, not everyone was there, but to support Trump. I mean, obviously, they weren't against Trump, but a lot of people, a lot of January 6th defendants went there because they were angry over abortion. They went there because they were angry over the mask mandates, the forced vaccinations, all the crap, the telling the people that, oh, well, you're important, but we're not. That was crazy talk because it flew right in the face of the word of God. And as much as people want to admit it or not admit it, this nation was founded on Christian principles, and so it's been carried down the family line all the way to where we're at today. And I don't care what religion you associate with, you've got a lot of those values that you're standing on because our country was founded on. So we knew things were fishy. Even the people that totally complied, most of them did it out of fear, but their heart told them things aren't right. So go forward. So what happened on January 6th? You're a musician, you're not political, you're there because things look fishy.
Yeah, I mean, there was a lot of those videos that dropped, especially in Maricopa County, of just them moving suitcases around, and especially was it a Maricopa? I think it was Maricopa or was it Georgia, where it's just like the line goes straight, and then like all these analysts are just like it's
Right.
like science, it's literally scientifically and mathematically impossible for it to be
Impossible.
like. So I had went down there because I was frustrated, but not really frustrated so much that I felt like there was something fishy about the election, but I was fishy because a lot of the things that Joe Biden was saying were aligning with what the World Economic and the United Nations plan for what's bigger than 2020. He was saying, and I'm just like, people don't understand that if there was something fishy with the election and they don't want to question it, they might not care now because of their political beliefs or whoever they wanted to won. But years from now, they will care. And I don't, at the time I'm 24 years old, but I'm sitting there thinking like, well, if I want to have a family, a couple of years from now, 5 years, 10 years from now, like it's not going to be the same America. And we're in a completely different America now, and
Yes, we are.
and
Yes, we are. And it makes me proud that you stood up. None of us intended this. None of us knew we were being set up. We might have known that, there were false flags being thrown. Some were intelligent enough to see what was happening that day due to their military training and whatnot. I think us normal citizens were everyday people just going, I don't know what's happened. Everything was happy at the ellipse in Washington Monument hearing Trump speak. And then you got to the Capitol and everyone's mad. And we're like, oh, what's going on here? Uh, but we really, most likely, I didn't have a clue that that there were bad people there to hurt me. I had no idea.
yeah, me either. I mean, by the time I even got to the Capitol, I mean, I like walked on the Capitol grass. Like I guess like with all the videos where they're showing like people like escalating with the cops and stuff, like that happened. I didn't even know that happened. So when I got to the Capitol, I'm just like, oh, this is. But like by the like later on, then I find it's like yeah, like where I'm standing at, like I'm already like getting all these trespassing charges and everything, and I don't even know anything because all these signs, people took all
Right.
these signs down, the barricades are completely gone, and
So did
yeah,
you go up the West Lawn?
I am not. I don't even know. I just like walked. I walked in the parking lot, and then I just ended up on the grass where
So
everyone
that's
else
what's
was.
something I want to point out because that to me is really interesting for the viewers. He just said, I really don't know. Like we were there. People don't understand. There were no fencing, there were no signs. Yes, there were that morning, and everything the news shows you is that morning there were signs, saying that the area was closed. It was done with the netting they used for construction. Now, do you think the wealthiest nation in the world could afford something more than snow fencing if they really were out to keep people off the lawn? And especially if they knew that it was going to pull the mass crowds. And people say, well, how would they have known? Because they were seeing the activity on the airline tickets. You almost could not get a plane to go into Maryland or Washington, D.C. because of how many people were booking the plane. When I come out of DFW, I showed up at the airport. Everything was red, white, and blue. Every single person that was sitting there waiting to get on the plane was heading to Washington, D.C. And trust me, their intel told them this thing was going to be massive. I believe there was about 2 million people there. And I personally think the wealthiest nation in the world could have afforded something more than snow fencing if they didn't want us around the Capitol. As a matter of fact, you roll forward about 15 days on January 20th, and all of a sudden they could afford a 10-foot wrought iron fence to go around the place. So it just tells you this was something planned intentionally. But you're right, there were no signs. And I've got video evidence. Go to stophate.com, where police officers that have been identified rolled up that fencing and actually took it down before all this started. So here we're just protesters. We're not even protesters, like we're sightseers. We're going and just checking everything out in total camaraderie. It's like a gigantic festival, and we're all with like-minded people. It was wonderful. And look how innocent he is that even after going through all of that, he still don't even know where he was at in placement at the Capitol because everything got railroaded on him from that point forward. So, not to be speaking for you, but I think that was really important to point out that it sounds like, did you go to a trial or did you take a plea bargain?
I just pled guilty to the whole. I didn't take a plea deal. I just pled guilty to the whole indictment so that I can appeal everything because their plea deal was for them to just drop the misdemeanors. And my lawyer was just like, that's just absolutely not acceptable because um, my plea deal was the same thing as me pleading guilty to the whole indictment. I
Right.
would have not gotten a shorter sentence.
Right.
So my lawyer said, why would we give up your appeal rights? And it's funny because he argued the 1512C for a while, and my judge actually had agreed with us for about a couple months leading up to sentencing, and then out of nowhere she just started to side with the DOJ, and
Hmm.
and my lawyer,
Once she figured out that it would not damage her reputation, because that's all they're worried about is being able to get on the Supreme Court. Then once she saw other judges and what they were doing, she went right in with the fold.
yeah, and it's crazy because I don't know what was said in the Supreme Court hearing, but I looked at what was filed in the appeal for Fisher in the appellate court, and my case is like there's so much writing about referencing my case, so I know that my lawyer tried his best.
That's beautiful. So I want to elaborate to people when he's referring to Fisher, he is referring to the Supreme Court case that went before the Supreme Court to tear down the 1512 charge and the way they were using it. They were using the 18 USC 1512 from Enron back in 1984, where documents were getting shredded to cover up the investigation to protect themselves. They wrote a law for it, and they used that law, molested it and used it for January 6th defendants. That's the best way to put it, because none of us were carrying a paper shredder that day, and this was literally an evidence protecting charge. Well, instead they tried to twist it on January 6th defendants and make it a Congress protecting charge. Anybody that needed Secret Service, they were trying to switch this charge around to make it look like it was a charge put in place to protect anybody that would need Secret Service. That obviously was not the case. And if it would have passed, we would have lost our First Amendment on the Constitution. That's how close we got to losing our First Amendment. So anyway, so Greg,
And that
did you
was a
have
big
the
difference.
1512?
Huh? Say that one more time.
Did you have the 1512?
Yeah, that's why
I
my
didn't
lawyer.
realize you had it. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's why my lawyer was arguing it. But it's crazy because I'm not gonna benefit over the overturn. My judge already said that she still wants to give me 41 months, and had she had agreed um, to not give me the 1512C from the get, because the reason why she still wants to give me the 41 months is because she says, the way I acted and stuff, like I deserve to be punished and all that stuff. So and more about what she believes instead of the actual law, which is kind of just messed up because these
Who
judges
was your judge?
Chief Judge Barrow Howe.
That speaks for itself. She is one of them that publicly had said every January 6th defendant deserved to be in prison for being at the Capitol that day. And yet she has not recused herself off of one January 6th defendant's case. So there you have it. So I want to dig into this more because that is atrocious to me. You're telling me that you're sitting in a halfway house right now with a 41-month sentence on misdemeanors and a 1512 charge, or do you have another felony?
No, I have an assault charge.
Okay,
But
so 111.
yeah, but it's crazy though because people, I've been, when I got out, I started looking me up and stuff, and it's like all these people are like, oh, he beat the shit out of cops, he has the assault charge, and like my assault is, I got bear maced because I was getting up to the in front of the what I seen when I was in the Capitol was this guy was just waving an American flag, and then they just literally bombarded him and hit him with a bunch of sticks and jumped him, like several of them. And I was just like, that's messed up. Like, that's completely messed up. And then, so I guess, like, they were like, oh, like, you're a threat because you're so close to us, even though I don't have, like, I literally had a water bottle. Like, that's all I went to the Capitol with. And they bear maced me, and out of frustration, I tossed maybe a couple droplets of water with this, like, exact water, too, like a plastic bottle.
So
And,
you didn't throw the bottle. You
no,
literally just sprayed water.
yeah, and that's my assault charge. So that's what I have 41 months for tossing a couple drops of water. That's my
So
assault charge.
I'm being facetious, but so for baptizing a police officer, it's now assault with a deadly weapon. I bet. Did they put the deadly weapon charge on you?
No, they tried to, but my lawyer had to fight because the DOJ was trying to say that I was chemicals. So my lawyer had to go through all the videos and then, he literally was just like, if it was chemicals, then why is he drinking from this water bottle? He's not drinking chemicals. And then the judge said, well, I'm not gonna agree with that. It's a deadly weapon, but it could have gotten the officer very sick. COVID was a serious thing, and I'm just like, this is crazy. Like I just felt like so much thing was just like about what if, what
What
if, and
if
and it's like
instead of
we're
what is?
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's like that's we don't go out. We're not supposed to go off what if in the court system. We're supposed to go on this is what happened, and I just felt like that kept happening to me. Like what if, what if, and I'm just like, well,
And it's because their case was so weak. And, listen, I want to clarify for the viewers, I am definitely not condoning any negative activity toward a police officer. Okay. That's why we have these talks. We own what we've done, good, bad, or otherwise. We own it. The question at hand is, was it worth their civil rights being violated, their lives being destroyed, almost to the point of unable to rebuild because they annihilate our character all around the country through all the media sources? It doesn't matter what state Greg lived in. I can assure you the Washington Times, New York Times carried it. The Washington Post carried the story. The Dallas Morning News carried the story. It didn't matter where he lived because all these news sources are connected together with one owner, a couple owners. So it's hard to rebuild your life because the minute that you put a resume in somewhere, the very first thing they do is Google search you to hear that you're a terrorist, to hear that you're a cop beater. And it's like, but if you heard this story, it's so not what they're presenting. I mean, they take it off the chart to extreme levels. And not only do they just, exaggerate what there really was occurring, they flat out lie about some of it. For me and Mark, there were flat out lie. The police officer said on the witness stand that I punched him in the face. They didn't have a video one of that because I didn't. And not to mention, I wouldn't have been able to. The guy was like 6'2". I'm 5'3". So anyway, back to your.
it's crazy too, because like I was telling you, when I got out, I started researching, and I'm like, they still have all these articles, and I actually like looked up myself like a week ago, and like actually a majority of the articles about me online are starting to be deleted, and I find it actually very strange
Wow.
because there
Probably because
was
you're getting to the end of your sentence. Because how many more months do you have in the halfway house?
I have 3 weeks left.
There you have it. So now they're like, we have tortured him with the process all this time. And I'm furious over the fact this 1512 charge got taken down, and yet it had no effect on your sentence whatsoever because they've pretty much determined in their heart you're getting a minimum of 3 years, period, end of story. And then you can work your way on good time to knock it down to get into a halfway house. But people, please understand, the halfway house is a bunkhouse with a bunch of people that are getting out of prison. It's loud. There's no peace of mind. You have no private space. You're in a bunk in a room with about 10 other beds?
Yeah, there's 14 people in my room.
Yes. So this is a horrific situation too. It's not like you're going to any better situation. I think the only improvement really is that you don't have the threat of guards beating you. Is that correct?
Yeah, I mean, I think the only good thing about it is having a phone, but it's crazy though, because like I was just telling someone this recently, and it's just like it's kind of there's so much more stress being here than there is actually being in the BOP because
That's
it's
what
like
I've heard.
because like you're trying to like I actually had an opportunity to get a really good job. You know, I went to school for marketing, and you know, I'm just applying to all these places, and I got called back by a marketing firm that does marketing for Fortune 500 companies. You know, they ask me all these questions, and I know all this stuff by the top of my head. And you're like the perfect candidate, and I'm like, awesome. So I'm doing everything that, you know, I had to get a suit and all this stuff. And they're like, okay, so when can you come in? And I'm like, well, you know, I'm at a halfway house. Like, I need you to fill out all this papers so I can leave the halfway house. And
That was
yeah,
it.
that was it. It's over with. Never got the job.
Absolutely. You know, it's sabotage because while you're there, they want you looking for a job and they want you working, and they put a lot of pressure on you to do that. However, you are not independent enough for them to let you get the job and you bring something back showing you're employed at that company, like, I don't know, a paycheck stub. No, that's not good enough. Before you get the job, you have to complete a bunch of paperwork for the halfway house. And now that company has to report to the halfway house. So now you're telling them this is in my past. Because, Greg, this is something that I believe Don Hazard might have told me. When they do a background check on you, is there a felony showing up on your background check?
I don't have that answer.
So I am hearing that these felonies actually are not showing up on a background check. And I would suspect it's because of the level of corruption within the judicial system in allowing this. They're basically preparing to cover their tracks if things don't go in this presidential election the way they want it to. So the only way they're finding out is by Google search and by having to report to the halfway house. So anyway, that's preventing y'all from getting jobs. So how did you even afford a suit for your interview?
Your donation.
I love it. Bless his heart. I wasn't even trying to plug my nonprofit. I had no idea. Just know if you can't work, you can't even afford clothes. You can't afford anything. And there's somebody behind the scenes making it happen. And that's what I really want to encourage the listeners that, guys, it matters. That cracks me up. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to put you on the spot like that. But you know, people do. They have to donate because there's
Well,
situations like this. He
I never even
cannot
told
take
you
care of
that.
himself.
I never even told you that. I just told you that. I just told you that I needed it, and you said, "All right, no, I'll try my best." And that's what I needed it for, though.
Oh, well, that's beautiful. So, you know, me and Mark, even though we're January 6th defendants, we do all we can to donate to them directly if American Patriot Relief doesn't have the money. And so I don't even remember which one of us paid for it, but I know that I'm not going to turn it away. It's like, you know what? I can have one less meal, but trust me, I got room to miss a meal. So, you know, we try to give when we can give. But
I
anyway,
thank you for that.
so you are now still sitting in a halfway house. And for, you know, so everyone thinks that the 1512 being overturned by the Supreme Court was just like, yay, the J6ers are free. And you're living proof it made no difference at all. Now, for me, I have the 1512 on me. I also have two different 111 charges. because it's against the law to protect yourself when you're attacked by police, then for me, it's same thing. I'm going to sentencing, and I have I don't know how it's going to play out, but I've been told it won't make a difference on my sentence either. So, because I have all kinds of ways to manipulate the numbers. For instance, they can run all your misdemeanors consecutive instead of concurrent. That way, as soon as you finish one, you go on to the next one, you go on to the next one. Well, they charge stack 5 misdemeanors on us. And so that's like 5
I don't
1
think
year.
they're legally allowed to do that anymore, though, which is crazy that they're doing it because I know they're getting away with it, but legally, I don't even think they're allowed to do that anymore because
Really?
I'm pretty. Didn't Obama? I think Obama said that you can't stack charges.
Interesting.
So like you're supposed to take like whatever the highest like all right, so felony, right? Whatever,
Mhm.
it could be um 33 to 41 months. And then they can take that and then whatever the highest misdemeanor is, which could be up to 12 months. So it's supposed to be at that point it would be like 50 months because they could pit the two together, but they can't take like it can't be like, okay, well, this charge is 6 months misdemeanor and this one's 6 months. Because I mean, if that was the case, I would not be here, right?
Right. That's right.
It would have
I
been like
really,
I think I
that is
did the
so
math, and
frustrating.
I think it was like if they would have done that, it would have been like 38 years in prison or something like that.
Right. That's what I pointed out for me. Me and Mark were looking at over 70 years in prison with them running consecutive. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy.
hmm Absolutely crazy, especially when you've never even, had a parking ticket. Not that you didn't take care of anyway.
Yeah, I just talked to my probation officer last week, and I had to go see him, and he's like, I looked you up, and he's like, you've never gotten in trouble ever in your life before, and I said, yeah, I know. I said one day I crime, and I'm here, and he's like, yeah, he's like, I've never seen something like this in my life, to be honest with you. He's like, you have no investigation, no nothing, like they literally, you got arrested for one day.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what is, part of this whole atrocity is that, we are innocent people. We were law abiding citizens. We thought we were abiding the law that day. We had the right to protest under the First Amendment. And, we weren't there to cause violence. We weren't there to do anything crazy. And they basically started a movie production with us in the movie. And people don't understand you're dealing with human instinct. We are what I call crowd animals, right? The Lord refers to us as sheep. We easily will follow a leader, and we can easily get pulled into a crowd mentality, a mob mentality, as you've heard it. And the reason I point that out is most everything I saw that day was human instinct. For instance, men, have been designed to be our provider and protectors, women. So when they would attack the women, the men would jump in to protect her. You have a fight or flight mode. You're either instinctively driven to fight back or you're instinctively driven to flee. Well, you couldn't flee because the crowd was so massive behind you and all around you. So most of what you saw was people fight back. But nobody wants to talk about what were they fighting back against. It was police attacking the January 6th defendants.
Yeah,
And
that's what happened to me. Yeah,
right.
violence just isn't the answer. I just think that they could have done so many different things that day, but it is what it is at this point. But it's just so crazy to me.
You're
It really
absolutely
is.
right. You're
And
love that you said that too. As a defendant charged with a felony crime of assaulting police officers, and the first word out your mouth was violence is not the answer.
yeah, and it's the one thing I didn't like too is like um they out of all the photos that they had on my phone, of course they take the worst ones, but they never took the ones of me literally. Like I have like before everything even happened, like everything's getting crazy and stuff. Like I have my selfies with, next to George Washington, next to Abe Lincoln and all this stuff, like inside the Capitol. And I'm just like, this is showcasing like what I did before there was chaos in there. Like it's not like, oh, he went there to stop the certification. Like I don't think that the person that was stopping the certification would have been taking selfies in the rotunda.
Exactly. That was same for me and Mark. They blasted the picture of me right after getting pepper sprayed all over the media. And of course, my, what do you call that, mugshot, blasted that everywhere. And it's like, well, I kind of took it as a badge of honor because I'm like, they couldn't find a bad picture until those 2 moments that they caused. So as a 53, 54-year-old woman, I'm pretty happy about that. But that's petty and shallow, so we'll move past it. But so where are you at now? I know you're in the halfway house. Do you have probation after this?
Yeah, 3 years, unless Trump gets in. But we'll see how that goes. I'm just like, it's crazy because like I was listening to you before I came on, and it's like I'm just like I'm just not into politics as strong as I used to be, and I would say 20% of that is because I've seen what the government does, and it doesn't really like no matter how many unless like the whole country stands up, I just don't think it matters because uh, they're just too strong, and they're not supposed to be that strong. There's no
That's
checks and
right.
there's no checks and balances. So
We have literally fed a fat hog all of our tax money and made this massive machine steamroller to then roll us over. And it's because of our own laziness. I have nobody to blame but myself. You have nobody to blame but yourself because we sat there fat, dumb, and happy, letting them tell us what we need to do and not do. And we sat complacent because it was too much work to get on FBI.gov and research it for yourself or to look into this candidate and what they stand for. I would venture to say probably 40% of our Republican candidates are Democrats running on a Republican ticket. You want to know, how do I know that? Because when I look them up at their voter history and what they were a registered voter as, you can see within 5 years of them running for office, they flipped over and started voting Republican. It was nothing but a show to get on in conservative areas so they could take over our country. And y'all are still sitting there clueless that happened. And I, being the real unintelligent one on politics in this picture here, the one that didn't stay up on it, and I knew that, and you don't. And you still don't. And what you're going to do, all of you, not you, Greg, but all the American people, they're going to run out there November 5th to vote. And any other election going on during that time, you're going to vote for whoever had the most signs on the corner and the biggest sign because, well, they must be the most knowledgeable. No, they're the most bought off. And you are unwilling to do your homework, and all of yours, but I'm in the middle of raising kids and I'm working and that was by design. The government makes sure that you stay poor enough that you have to keep your nose to the grindstone, but you have to decide, if I have to live a lesser life and my kids don't get to have Reebok on their shoe, then that's what it's going to have to be. But it's more important for them to have freedom. So that's me on my high horse for a minute, but it is up to the American people to stand up. And I'm not asking you to go out there with your pitchforks and torches. I'm asking you to stand strong, be educated, and speak it, and don't be afraid of your own opinion. It's okay to be wrong and it's okay to be right, but you should be speaking out. Intelligent conversation, iron sharpening iron. That is how things get done. I can't tell you over the years how many times I changed my opinion on something because I got in front of somebody that I respected their intelligence. They knew more about the topic and they had a different opinion than me and could point out where my thinking was wrong and do it with love. Now, I'm not saying everyone is humble enough to let that happen, but you're not going to know if you don't try. So, Greg, I hope and pray that you're not allowed to vote now, are you?
No.
Neither am I. So isn't it interesting? Now we have a new goal. I don't know if you realize it. Our goal now isn't to vote, it's to get 10 registered voters that are like-minded. Okay. They can't take our vote. They want you to think they took your vote. They can't take your vote. You go find 10 people that are like-minded and ask them to vote on your behalf. See, I picked up this trick a long time ago. I have a disease that I can't donate blood. And because of that, and I'm passionate about it because my brother almost died and life-saving blood saved his life. So because of that, I would solicit other people to donate blood on my behalf. Please, if you love me, if you care about me, let me feel the honor of getting to donate blood. So my children would donate, my husband would donate, friends would donate. And it wasn't about, they didn't have to sign something, in my name. No, they just come back. Hey, I donated blood for you. And I felt like $1 million. So now I'm doing it with voters. 10 people that aren't registered to vote, you go register to vote and you run that you vote for Trump. And you do it in honor of Greg Rubenacker. You do it in honor of Jalise Middleton, because
I have a couple friends that are actually going to do that because they don't agree with what's happened to me, and they voted for Biden in 2020.
oh my goodness.
Yeah, they said they draw the line when they started calling J6ers domestic terrorists.
Yeah. And today a monumental day to point that out, because we are in this situation right now because of what occurred on 9/11, which I personally now believe was a complete setup by the government. I believe that our own government tore that down, but that's a story for another day. I used to think that people that thought that was a conspiracy theorist and it was an atrocity. But I have different opinions now. And again, because of people that could bring the receipts to the table. And so because of that day, they had a darn good reason. While everyone was scared to death, they always use fear right before they're coming to take your rights. They did it with COVID. They did it with 9/11. And I'm going to tell you, they're going to do it with these Venezuelan gangs. They're trying to scare you so they can take more of your rights. And as long as you're not walking in your faith, they're going to get it, because you're going to walk in fear and you make bad decisions in fear. And who was it? George Washington that said that you don't deserve either one if you're going to stand in fear. So you're willing to give your security or your freedom for your security. Now you're getting what you get. And I'm here to tell you, when you're watching this happen to your child because you walked in fear, that's going to be a hard pill to swallow. And that's where we're at, because 9/11 brought into play the Patriot Act. And now the Patriot Act is being used against every single January 6th defendant to take away their civil rights. I'm classified as a domestic terrorist. Okay, the only thing that I'm terroristic toward are bugs and spiders. Okay, I don't know what else would be a terrorist threat to. So, this is where we're at today, and it's because of 9/11. And here we are sitting here on 9/11 having a talk about it. So now you're looking at 3 years probation. People probably don't know what probation looks like for a January 6th defendant. What does probation entail? Do you know?
Yeah, he was I guess, just wants me to get a job and just stay out of trouble. I don't know. To me, it's kind of just like, I don't understand how they can give you prison time and then say, oh, well, now we're gonna watch you for another 36 months. Like, I don't know. I mean, it's not like just January 6ers go through it. Everyone that leaves the system goes through
Right.
this, but I just don't see how, like, it's constitutionally legal. But
So what I know, and I don't know a lot about probation, but just from communicating with other January 6th defendants, what I'm aware of is that you have to pay for it every month. And it's usually around $300. So you have to afford to pay probation, or now you're in violation of it and at risk of going back into the prison system. You have to pay up all your fines that the court assessed to you. How much of a fine did they assess to you, Greg?
$2,000 for not destroying anything.
Yeah, so there you have that. And then you've also, depending on your personal situation, they will make you go for a drug test. Well, you've got to go to the probation office or wherever they tell you. For some people, that's a 2-hour drive. They're requiring them to do it weekly. That's all that gas on their time and leaving a job. Imagine trying to tell your employer that you've got to go take a drug test for your probation. So they do all these things to sabotage you getting back up on your feet. In the meantime, you've got to get housing. If you do not have a stable house to go to that does not have a felon in it and does not have a January 6th defendant in it, then they will let you stay in that house. But they will not let you stay if either of those two occurrences are in your house. So then, in order to stay in compliance with probation, you've got to find different housing that's affordable. Imagine doing that right now when you have no job. You can't get ahead on getting a job because you're in a halfway house. And I mean, they literally put you in a circular trap where because of this, it leads to this, that led to that now it won't let you do what you needed to do in the first place. So it is all bondage and entrapment from our government. And it is such a sad, sad state. And I'm looking at this young man. You're 28 years old now.
Yeah.
And he's still trying to get up on his feet.
Nonetheless, I live in New York. The prices here are just astronomical.
Yes, they have not been overly friendly to the J6 community. I can vouch for that. However, New York had a lot of representation out there January 6th, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean it's really just a city that's very
Right.
blue. Like Long Island is very red, and upstate is very red, but there's much more people living in the city that it overshadows that.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. That's how they took over California too. Most people don't realize California is a red state, but the cities are blue and liberals took them over probably through stolen elections, and they don't represent their people at all. I did not see any bigger crowd January 6th than people from California. And that
Well,
always surprises people.
I think California turned that way because I think it was in 1986 they passed an amnesty for illegal immigration, and ever since then I think it's been blue.
And
And
they
and now
are
in
using that playbook, how they took over California. They're using it in Texas right now to turn us blue. And everyone has really downplayed what I've been saying here, but I'm in Texas and I'm watching them do it. We're purple right now because they're stealing the election play by play, just like they did in California. And they're doing it in the entire country because when Texas goes, the whole country will go.
yeah, I mean they passed the law in 2016 or 2020. I'm not too positive, but
Okay.
uh yeah, illegals can vote in New York elections.
That's
So
right. Yep. That's why our governor was shipping them all to New York to teach them a lesson. No, he wasn't. He was shipping them to New York so they could vote. Yes, I said it. Mic drop. Okay, so I want to go back to you for a minute. So one thing I've noticed is, we serve a mighty God. And he has been on scene with this from day one. I've heard hundreds, if not 1,000 J6ers say, I felt called there that day. I've heard many of them talk about the beauty of what Christ has done since then through this atrocity. What has happened in your relationship with the Lord, if anything? And it's okay to say nothing. It's okay to say that ain't my cup of tea. I have no clue. I just want to hear from you. What does it look like now? Has something changed in your personality at all?
Yeah, I mean, I was going to church, but I really just was going to church before. But during prison, I started reading the Bible and stuff. Um, I feel closer to him. Um, we all have our demons, so I feel like he's helped me get through a lot of them. And he definitely helped me when I was behind the wall, because I lacked a lot of faith, because it's like, I don't know if I've told you this, but my dad passed away when I was incarcerated, so like that took a toll on me.
Ooh, back up on that one. Your father passed away while in prison.
Yeah,
That's time you can't get back.
yeah. And the BOP didn't care at all. Like my family tried to do like a video call, and they just denied it and didn't care. And
They would not even let you do a video call to be at the funeral.
just to even talk to my dad before he was passed away.
You had the opportunity to talk to him before he passed.
Yeah, I mean, I would be able to call him on the cell phone, but I didn't get to see him.
And what would that have hurt at all? That is the atrocity. See, that's where the punishment is in the process, right there.
Yeah.
I am so sorry, Greg.
Yeah. So, I don't know, just that's one of the reasons why I'm just trying to keep moving forward, because stuff like that, it's just like you can't get back.
You can't get it back. Oh, that my heart is just in my stomach right now. That made me sick. I don't even know what to say from that. I've lost both my parents. I wasn't quite as young as you. I believe I was 32 when I lost my mother, and that was too young. I can't even imagine. My heart breaks for you right now. So obviously you've had to lean in pretty hard to Christ to get through this. You've kind of had a special insight where he's had to carry you through at least that time, that season for sure.
And like it sucks too, because it's like my dog passed away like a month before my dad, so it was like in the same period. And like my dog was like helped me get through so much like anxiety and depression. I called her my first daughter. Like that's I love that dog so much. So that really messed me up too.
So where do we go from here? When you get out, do you have a house to go to? Is your family supportive? Have you lost some of your family through this? I mean, beyond death, have people rejected you because you were at the Capitol that day?
It's like, yeah and no. Like people have, they lean into it, and some people don't. But it's like I try to. I don't want this day to define who I am. So I just gotta just keep pushing forward, and like I've been writing music, and like I want to tell my story about overcoming things and trying to heal people, because I don't want people to feel what I've been through. So
Right.
that's like where I've been putting my energy and trying to, regardless of political party or anything, just try to help people that are going through rough times in their life and depression and all that stuff. So I
That
could
is
be
called
that.
loving your neighbor. That's the way we're supposed to do it. Not by political affiliation, not by religious affiliation, but for the fact you're a human being just like me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's where I've been putting my energy into, and
Do you have a website or something with your music that people could go to?
My music got taken down when I was incarcerated,
Of
but
course it did.
so when I get out, I really want to just like rebrand myself and start really getting out there and just showing people that I'm not just this old DJ or whatever these people think I am. Like I'm an artist that belongs to stay and can touch people's heart, but like outside of politics and politics aside, like music's not supposed to be politically oriented. It
Right.
could be, but like that's not where I want to be. I want it to be about more of a healing process, and I would like my shows to be like a therapy where you can go there and you can meet all these people that feel the same way you feel.
Right. You know what I love about talking to you? I do feel a strong sense of love for people. Like I'm not feeling, with most of us January 6th defendants, there is a thread of animosity that I can feel in everyone's spirit. We're just wounded. I'm not feeling that with you. I'm feeling love, love, love from you. I am excited at what the Lord is going to do with your music because I don't know if you're harboring it or not, but I'm not feeling it. Like I'm feeling somebody like that has felt like this was unfair. It was wrong. It wounded me. There's scars there, but I just want to get out and love people and love life again.
Yeah, so that pretty much sums it up.
That's a feat right there, because the enemy comes to steal, kill, and destroy. And by you, controlling your thoughts and keeping love at the forefront, love wins. That is how we win our battles, is through love. And you're going to be able to launch right back on your feet. And I just want you to know that is scriptural. That's just a fact. We're
I
usually
pray on it every day. I pray on it every day. I just want to let you know my phone might die, so if it cuts off, I didn't hang up on you. My phone died.
Well, we're going to close it out now. I think we've got to know Greg really well. Is there a way for the people to help you?
Yeah, I have a Give Send Go. You could type in I believe it's Help Greg on Give Send Go.
Okay. Y'all, please do that. Go to givesandgo.com/helpgreg and make sure it talks about January 6th or shows his picture or something. Go in there and donate to him and help him to get on his feet. He's fixing to get out in 3 weeks. He's going to need some money. So also always remember AmericanPatriotRelief.org. We're out there helping these guys. We love them very much. And with that, we're going to close up in prayer. Heavenly Father, thank you for this time together. Thank you for me getting the opportunity to know my brother Greg. I feel like we're forever going to be bonded through this situation. He is my brother in Christ. And Father, I thank you that you brought him forward to be a fighter for this nation, that he has stood in the gap for the American people. He has withstood the persecution. Father, I thank you that you've given us the strength to do that. Everything comes through you, Lord Jesus. Father, I pray for this nation to bow their knee before you and to repent of their wrongdoing, of all the evil that we've allowed into this country as we sat complacent, just trying to mind our own business and go to our job and pay our mortgages instead of seeking to glorify you and stand on the word of truth. Father God, this nation needs you right now. I pray for our leaders. I pray for Joe Biden. I pray for Kamala Harris. I pray for President Trump, that you would be a vessel into their lives, that they would see the truth and humble themselves before you. Because when this nation humbles itself at your feet, you will lift us up and redeem our nation. Lord, thank you for this time together. May you be glorified in all that we do this week. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you, brother, for coming on. For the viewers, don't forget to tune in tomorrow. We got a great J6 show tomorrow, too. I am super excited about this one, so I'm going to jump on here real quick.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, Greg, you have been amazing for us today. I love when I can bring on, my hope was yesterday to have Howard Richardson on. He was our oldest J6er. You're one of our younger ones. And I think it's always fun to see all the differences and viewpoints. Tomorrow, we're going to have JD Rivera on here. And he just come back from Washington, D.C., where he went and sought some healing from his story from January 6th. And he also was at that congressional hearing with Marjorie Taylor Greene. So I'm excited to bring him on and hear what he has to say. Y'all tune in tomorrow with your favorite Michigan governor, Donna Brandenburg. She is the one that did not concede and is not conceding. And we love her very much, and we're grateful for the space she gives the January 6th defendants and brings the truth to y'all to tie it all in together. This is all connected. Every single thing you're hearing her talk about is connected to January 6th. We are the final phase to oppress and suppress the people so that they can take this nation. And everything she talks about is what they were doing leading up to it and where it's at now. So stay tuned. I'll see you tomorrow, and God bless you all. And bye-bye.